Chapter 1778. Li Shu had thought of simply saying that this player from Radiance had cheated. In order to prove that Black did not cheat, Radiance had to show all of Black's methods. This way, they could at least obtain complete information on Radiance's top geniuses for future countermeasures. As a result, Pity God's words were out. What he wanted to say and what he wanted to do. It was destined not to be done. In the entire Freedom Federation, Li Shu felt that Pity God was the most selfish and overbearing after becoming a god. Pity God was a Class 5 creation master, but her resources were never distributed to other eminences like the Mirror God and the Foolish God. The goddess of Pity, who was extremely selfish, was not a person who could calmly accept victory and defeat. Not only was Li Shu puzzled, but Nana was also puzzled. In fact, because Nana knew Pity God better than Li Shu, she was the most shocked. Just now, Qian Yu had completely stopped breathing. Even Tang Longyu, a middle-rank devil, had separated from Qian Yu's body. Pity God was indifferent. Nana couldn't say anything else after hearing the Compassion God's words. She could only look at the Moon Empress. Pity God was the first to speak. The strongest Pity God could be said to represent the Freedom Federation's will. The 13 eminences, including the Moon Empress, saw Lin Yuan stand up and begin to crush Qian Yu and Lu Oyu. On one hand, they were shocked by Lin Yuan's strength. On the other hand, they knew that the ending would not be simple. In a while, there would definitely be an accident. In fact, the eminences of Radiance were also struggling in their hearts. At this time, the Moon Empress' strength had broken through and was qualified to call herself a god. The Moon Empress and the old man worked together, in addition to themselves and the heaven-blessed mansion's favored spirit. Under the circumstances of paying a huge price, it was possible to make the Freedom Federation's 3 eminences stay here. However, there was still no news from the Tower Cannon. They did not know who the 2 8-page members of the Tower Cannon were. They also did not know if the Tower Cannon and the Freedom Federation had any secrets. Therefore, for the safety of the royal capital and the people in the nearby big cities, the eminences of Radiance did not dare to take this risk, and they could not take this risk either. Right now, Pity God's suggestion was indeed the best choice for Radiance. At this moment, no one could understand what Pity God was thinking. Pity God forcibly shifted her gaze away from Lin Yuan. The reason why Goddess Lian did this was simple. Goddess Lian was using her own method to express her goodwill to Hui Yao. This was so that it would be more convenient for him to communicate with the Moon Empress and the old man from the Radiant sect. The Goddess of Mercy had never cared about anything other than herself. Goddess Lian cared so much about Lin Yuan because of the attraction of the bloodline, which made her do so spontaneously. On the other hand, it was also because Lian Shun wanted to find a breakthrough opportunity from Lin Yuan. Although she had awakened her life providence, she wasn't satisfied with her strength stopping there. The Compassion God's words had completely admitted the Freedom Federation's failure. Even though there was a small interlude, the entire Star Web audience had seen it with their own eyes. However, Hui Yao had already announced their victory. The entire Star Web and the Star Web audience had been suppressing their emotions for a long time. He was completely released. Poison Beauty, who had always been sharp with her words and mercilessly ridiculed the audience in the live broadcast room, had always given people the image of a venomous sister. But at that moment, Poison Beauty was crying in the live broadcast room. Poison Beauty did not shed tears in the live streaming room to attract attention. It was also not because she was touched. Instead, when she felt this glory, Poison Beauty's body surged with hot blood. It was this hot blood that made Poison Beauty's nose turn sour uncontrollably, and her eyes filled with tears. This feeling was hard for Poison Beauty to describe. However, Poison Beauty was not the only live streamer who felt this way. Lu Shuang took a deep breath in the live streaming room. She could no longer suppress the hot blood surging in her heart and shouted, "Black awesome! Long live Hui Yao!" Lu Shuang's long-suppressed roar ignited the enthusiasm of the other viewers in the live streaming room that could no longer be suppressed. Then, she roared, "Black awesome! Long live Hui Yao!" Such bullet comments flooded the screen for a long time. Only then did people start to discuss the battle just now. Piggy, Lin Yuan is simply too strong. He had directly killed the third-ranked envoy of freedom of this generation. Ah! How did Lin Yuan do it? From today onwards, I must work hard. I will strive to be like Lord Lin Yuan and stand on the land of the Radiant's sacred hall. Glacier setting sun, the person above is so ambitious. After becoming a Radiant's 100 sequence member, you might really have the opportunity to meet Lord Lin Yuan face to face. Adapt to circumstances. I apologize. I repent. Previously, I thought that Lord Lin Yuan was useless and was controlled the whole time. I didn't expect that Lord Lin Yuan was the one who established this battle. Wolf of the North, why do you all call him Lord Lin Yuan? I think it's most appropriate to call him Lord Black. Lin Yuan is a stranger to us, but we watched Black Treasure grow up. I unknowingly revealed a male mother's smile. Thunder, I think that although Lord Black's performance was the most dazzling, the victory was the result of the joint efforts of the 5 people in the team. They are the glory of Hui Yao. Set sail, what to do? Ever since I saw Lord Lin Yuan in his mermaid form, I don't feel that my husband beside me is fragrant anymore. Your little fairy is with me. Hey, I'm the same as you, but completely opposite. Ever since I saw Lin Yuan in his mermaid form, I don't feel that my wife beside me is fragrant anymore. Not only Lu Shuang and Poison Beauty's live-streaming rooms, but the atmosphere in the other live-streaming rooms was equally enthusiastic. Previously, no one had the opportunity to see a battle of such a level. No one knew the danger that the 100 sequence members and Hui Yao envoys could face. But now, these people understood. When they couldn't see it, it was these people who carried the burden and propped up Hui Yao's backbone. At this moment, looking at Lin Yuan, Liu Jie, Zhong Ziyi, Gao Feng, and Liu Yifan. Everyone was enjoying the glory that belonged to each of them. They were also witnessing this glory through the Star Web live-streaming method. Lan Xun looked at Lin Yuan with a rather shocked expression. How old was Lin Yuan now? Although Lin Yuan's ability seemed to completely restrain Chen Yu, to be able to kill Chen Yu in a restrained situation was definitely an ability that others didn't have. At that moment, Lan Xun saw Yin Lin tug at his sleeve. Seeing the expression on Yin Lin's face, Lan Xun immediately knew why Yin Lin called him. Lan Xun couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Lady Yin Lin, you're simply too good to the Radiant Moon Empress disciple. 7017K. Chapter 1779. Lan Xun didn't really want to do this, as doing so would only drag the Azure Federation into this conflict. However, after pondering for a moment, Lan Xun still stood up. As the 4th Azure envoy, Yin Lin was clearly inclined toward the Radiance Federation from the beginning. Since Yin Lin had already made her choice, it was not good for Lan Xun to say anything else. At the same time, this battle allowed Lan Xun to see many of the internal problems of the Freedom Federation. The Freedom Federation's internal problems had allowed the Azure Federation and the Radiance Federation to develop and breathe for so many years. At present, the internal problems of the Freedom Federation were becoming more and more serious. Objectively speaking, Lan Xun felt that it was better to work closely with a certain majesty of the Freedom Federation. It was undoubtedly a better choice to cooperate with the entire Radiance Federation. Thinking of this, Lan Xun spoke. Since the compassionate goddess has made it clear that the Freedom Federation has lost to the Radiance Federation, it just so happens that I'll hand over the resources in my hands to Hui Yao for now. As he spoke, Lan Xun took out 3 pieces of spatial equipment. Looking at the 3 pieces of spatial equipment in his hands, Lan Xun couldn't help rubbing his hands together. The 3 pieces of spatial equipment contained an enormous amount of wealth that could not be measured. Apart from the 3 top-grade water that Lan Xun had taken out as the banker back then. The sea monster that Yin Lin had made a promise to was from the mystic realm of Lantes and had awakened its natal water. The Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation's wager of resources was the main prize. Li Shu was brimming with confidence when he made the bet. He took out 10 adult island whales. 3 of the island whales had even reached the strategic S rank. There were also 1,000 tons of spiritual ingredients from myth breed phase. In the end, the Moon Empress took out 20 adult island whales to let Li Shu gamble for her Satan's seed. 3 of them had reached the level of a strategic S rank. At the same time, there were 2,000 tons of spiritual ingredients from myth breed phase and 50 tons from creation breed phase. 500 law crystals, 50 world crystals, and 10 immortal bodies that had been purified. The items that the Moon Empress had taken out were all rare creation master resources. If he was lucky, he could find those old experts who had been stuck at the master realm for decades. 500 law crystals, 50 world crystals, and 10 immortal bodies that had been purified. It could easily allow these veteran experts to break through a small realm. They might even be able to nurture dozens of Emperor-level experts and a few Undying-level experts. It could be said that the amount of resources that the Moon Empress had taken out was something that many medium-sized federations couldn't afford even if they wanted to. However, this was only the wager between Li Yi and Moon Queen. Goddess Lian took out 150 complete fairy bloodlines. There were also 200 different types of insect-type carcinoma phase and 5,000 bronze epic phase. There were also 100 bronze legend phase. Among the bets, epic and legend phase were considered Class 4 and Class 5 Creation Masters resources. Apart from the Federation that had Class 5 Creation Masters, the other federations didn't have any bronze legend phase. An insect-type carcinoma phase was not considered precious. However, 200 different types of insect species carcinoma phase were different. Ordinary factions did not have the ability to collect so many types of insect-type carcinoma phase. Furthermore, among the insect-type carcinoma phase, every insect-type carcinoma phase had a different destructive power. Hence, the danger level of these insect-type carcinoma phase was different. After Lan Xun's investigation, the 200 insect species carcinoma phase that the compassionate god had taken out had been filtered. However, there were also some insect-type carcinoma phase with extremely powerful abilities. There was a youth from the younger generation that could use the insect-type carcinoma phase as a means of attack and nurture them. The 200 insect-type carcinoma phase that the compassionate god had given to the Hui Yarrow would definitely be able to increase that youth's strength by a huge margin. After all, the Radiance Continent's insect-type carcinoma phase were completely different from the Freedom Continent's insect-type carcinoma phase. Compared to the insect-type carcinoma phase, Lan Xun was more concerned about the 150 complete fairy bloodlines. Obtaining something like the Fey bloodline was both cruel and required a lot of resources. The cruel part naturally referred to the need to kill the fairies and extract their bloodlines. The consumption of resources wasn't just limited to nurturing the fairy source-type lifeforms. There were also spirit chi professionals with incredible spiritual energy. If the fairy source-type lifeforms wanted to be nurtured, the most basic requirement was to be contracted by a spirit chi professional. Furthermore, the fairy bloodline might not even be a Class 5 creation master. There was no guarantee that the extraction would be 100% successful. This also meant that the 150 complete fairy bloodlines would require at least 150 fairy source-type lifeforms and 150 geniuses with incredible spiritual energy. Once the fairy source-type lifeforms died, the spirit chi professionals who had contracted the fairy source-type lifeforms would suffer a spiritual injury and become crippled. This was something that Liu Jie understood the most. Lan Xun didn't know the effects of using 150 complete fairy bloodlines at the same time. However, 3 or 4 complete fairy bloodlines would allow a 2-winged fairy to become a 4-winged fairy. If these 150 complete fairy bloodlines were used by a 4-winged fairy, it might be able to forcefully grow another pair of wings and become a 6-winged fairy. After absorbing so many fairy bloodlines, the 4-winged fairy might be able to forcefully grow another pair of wings and become a 6-winged fairy. Even if Liu Jie's 6-winged fairy used 150 complete fairy bloodlines, its bloodline would also have significant improvements. The compassionate god had taken out so many stakes. Correspondingly, apart from the 300 uncontracted fairy source-type lifeforms that the compassionate god had mentioned, the Moon Empress had to take out the corresponding resources. As a result, the Moon Empress had taken out the purified eternal heart. Because of this purified eternal heart, the Moon Empress had asked the compassionate god to add 5,000 more bronze epic phase to the original stakes. And 150 complete fairy bloodlines. The compassionate god had agreed. In addition, because of the sea demon that Yin Lin had proposed, which had awakened its origin water, Hui Yarrow had taken out a true desolate grade desolate bloodline fae. The Freedom Federation had also taken out a middle-rank devil. It was really difficult for a Class 5-star family in the Azure Federation to take out such a large amount of resources. Even if they took them out, they would definitely suffer. At present, Lan Xun took this huge amount of resources and walked in the direction of the 13 Highnesses of Hui Yarrow. Finally, it was handed over to the old man. Lan Xun realized that during this process, Hui Yarrow's other Highnesses did not have the slightest opinion. According to the contents of the bet, most of the resources would be given to the person who performed best in the battle. That was the Moon Empress disciple, Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress did not compete to take the resources. From this, it could be seen how united Hui Yarrow's Highnesses were. 7017K. Chapter 1780. Lan Xun could be sure that if the Freedom Federation won the competition, they would not be able to win. When he distributed the resources to Goddess Lian and Li Shu, the two of them would definitely have a conflict over the distribution of resources. Li Shu's face darkened completely. He might not be able to provide as many resources as the Pity Goddess, but Li Shu was not a Class 5 creation master. In terms of resources, there was no way he could compare to Goddess Lian. Li Shu stared fixedly at the Goddess of Pity. He noticed that there was no trace of anger on Goddess Lian's face. It was as if the one who suffered the most wasn't the Pity Goddess. Based on Li Shu's understanding of Goddess Lian, she definitely did not have this kind of tolerance. Moreover, Lian Shun was never willing to admit defeat. Just as Li Shu was looking at the Goddess of Lian, she spoke again. Qian Yu is my caretaker, as well as the Freedom Federation's third freedom envoy. When Qian Yu died, this empress did not act. This was for the sake of the Freedom Federation's reputation. Our Freedom Federation can afford to lose, but Lu Oyu used some tricks to recruit Nana. Nana acted and protected Lu Oyu, who should have died. Right now, there are two choices. First, let Lu Oyu die. Second, let Nana break the rules and make simple compensation. Second, Nana, you can protect Lu Oyu. However, this depends on whether the Radiance sect agrees or not. On the other hand, you have to come up with more resources. The Lian god's words were spoken with a strong sense of righteousness. Just like before, they were all standing on the side of the Freedom Federation. However, it was not normal for these words to come out of Goddess Lian's mouth. Li Shu was very clear that Goddess Lian must have a motive. Otherwise, Lian Shun would not have reacted in such a manner. However, firstly, Li Shu was not interested in the Goddess of Pity. Secondly, the Goddess of Pity was currently harming Nana's interests, and it had nothing to do with him. Li Shu did not make any statement. On the other hand, because of the words of the Pity Goddess, Nana was stunned. Once again, he fell into a passive position. Nana reached out her hand and rubbed Lu Oyu's soft silver short hair, which was dispelled from the greater devil's state. She was so angry that she let out a series of giggles. All of a sudden, an aura that was similar to Lu Oyu's just erupted, but it was on a completely different level. Nana's hair, which was tied up in a high bun, suddenly fell down. In an instant, his hair turned purple. 4 horns protruded from the side of Nana's forehead like a crown. Pale pink ghost tattoos appeared on both sides of Nana's cheeks. From afar, these ghost patterns looked like insect marks. Nana's voice suddenly became even more flirtatious. It was as if it could easily steal a person's soul. But at this moment, the coquettish voice was exceptionally cold. No matter what, I will protect Lu Oyu. Otherwise, you will leave me and Lu Oyu here. Moon Empress, even if you have stepped onto the path to ascension and awakened your life providence, I don't think you want my phaseless beast to suck in a mouthful of your radiance's land. Moreover, Night-Leaning Moon is the clearest about the abilities of my great devil. I admit defeat this time. I'm willing to take out 3 uncontracted sacred source lifeforms and a special gem I found in a dimensional world. I'm not sure what the ability of this gem is, but this gem can change the environment of the dimensional world. Let the level of dimensional creatures rapidly increase. I think your radiance has just begun exploring the abyss, so you need to find a way to tame a batch of dimensional creatures. This gem will be of great help to you. I think through your explorations, you should already know that there is a huge difference in the level of dimensional creatures in the dimensional world. If an ordinary dimensional creature swallows this gem, it will automatically transform into an apostle in less than a month. As she spoke, Nana's hand shook, and 3 uncontracted sacred source lifeforms and an emerald gem the size of a fingernail appeared. They appeared in Nana's palm. Nana's words just now had clearly expressed her stance on this matter. It was equivalent to telling the 13 majesties of the Radiance Federation that if they did not release Lu Ou, they would kill her first. At Nana's level of strength, she was just one step away from awakening her life providence. Not to mention whether Nana could counterattack and kill the majesties of the Radiance Federation in the process of resisting. Nana was still confident that she could kill all living beings below the Eternal Realm. At the same time, Nana also threw out her phaseless beast's ability to absorb providence. This was to explain to the Radiance Federation's majesties the drawbacks of forcing her to stay. In fact, Nana had already shown her sincerity by taking out 3 uncontracted sacred source lifeforms. She could also take out some other resources as a token of goodwill. For example, the special gem that Nana had taken out from the dimensional world. It was a kind of foundational resource. After all, it was obtained from exploring the dimensional world. Even Nana herself did not understand what this special gem's function was. She had only found out some of the gem's functions through some special experiments. This dimensional gem obtained from the swamp world had high research value. Previously, the goddess of compassion had wanted to obtain it from Nana more than once, but the negotiations had never been successful. Nana had taken out this emerald green dimensional gem to disgust the goddess of compassion. This was because the goddess of compassion's actions had disgusted Nana. It had also caused Nana to fall into a passive position. She had learned from Lu Ou that Lu Ou's phaseless beast cub had been taken away by the youth behind the Moon Empress. Nana had intended to think of a way to get that phaseless beast cub back. However, after the goddess of compassion's words, Nana couldn't bring up the matter of the infant phaseless beast anymore. Lin Yuan had seen the emerald gem in Nana's hand. The Mobius bracelet on his wrist suddenly became hot. Morbius' voice echoed in Lin Yuan's mind. Lin Yuan could sense Morbius' irrepressible joy from its tone. To be honest, this was the first time Lin Yuan had seen Morbius' emotions fluctuate so much. "Buddy, do you remember when I told you that I'm not complete and that I need to find something to make myself whole? That emerald gem is exactly what I need." Upon hearing that, an uncontrollable joy immediately rose in Lin Yuan's heart. Morbius was Lin Yuan's life and death partner. Lin Yuan really hoped that Morbius could become complete. Secondly, with this emerald gem, as long as Morbius absorbed this emerald gem, it would not be able to escape. He then bound the emerald gem with one of his phase through Morbius' exclusive skill, Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. In that case, that spirit-locked Fae wouldn't just possess normal abilities and exclusive skills. It could also unlock other abilities and exclusive skills. Lin Yuan had been looking forward to this day ever since Morbius had mentioned it. Now, Lin Yuan's expectations could finally be realized. 7017K. Chapter 1781. When Lin Yuan had been communicating with Morbius, Morbius had given him some information. Lin Yuan guessed that if Morbius wanted to repair its body, it would explore the dimensional world. This was because Morbius' ability was mainly used on sacred source lifeforms. If Morbius could fuse 2 sacred source lifeforms, it meant that the dimensional world was definitely related to Morbius. Now, Nana had taken out this emerald green crystal. This let Lin Yuan know that his initial guess was correct. There was more than one groove on the Morbius ring. Even if Lin Yuan obtained this emerald green dimensional gem, he would not be able to completely restore Morbius. Therefore, the exploration of dimensional worlds could be said to have become something that he had to do. No matter how much Lin Yuan wanted this emerald green dimensional gem, Lin Yuan knew that he should not ask for it at this time. This was because the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation were currently in a game of chess. Any choice would be related to the Federation's interests. Even if he could not obtain this emerald green gem, now that he knew the origin of the dimensional gem, he would always have a chance to obtain it again. The moment Nana took out the emerald green gem, the pity god's expression suddenly turned ugly. The pity god really liked this dimensional gem. Otherwise, she would not have thought of exchanging it with Nana. The pity god, who had fused with the mermaid bloodline, felt that this gem would not be simple. However, even if the pity god took out something that was far more valuable than this dimensional gem, Nana also remained unmoved. This let the pity god know that she had her eyes on this dimensional gem, which made Nana feel strange. She wanted to study this dimensional gem in private. Nana had mentioned so many functions of this dimensional gem, so she must have come to this conclusion after exploring it. There was no reason for the pity god not to obtain something that she liked. If it had been in the past, Nana would have taken out this dimensional gem as a bargaining chip to trade with the Radiance Federation. The pity god would have been extremely furious. The pity god might have been able to obtain something that was in Nana's hands if she put in some effort. However, this dimensional gem was in the Radiance Federation's hands. The pity god did not think that she would have the chance to obtain it again. At this moment, the pity god had a trace of killing intent toward Nana. Haha, interesting. Since you're using something I like as a bargaining chip, then I'll make you take out something even more valuable. According to the rules of the Assembly of 10,000 Nations, everything of the loser will be given to the winner. Lu Oyu lost the match. You want to save Lu Oyu's life. I'm afraid that what he has to offer is not just this. When the great devil gluttony swallows its target, other than the part that can be quickly digested, the rest will be stored in the void stomach. Yang Ling, Cai Hua, and Yu Changjian were all devoured by Lu Oyu. Lu Oyu didn't give up on sacred source life forms either. Spit out the resources in Yang Ling, Cai Hua, and Yu Changjian's spatial sieves, as well as the remains of the 3 sacred source life forms. Lu Oyu's sacred source life form and the greater devil in her body are still alive. You took out these items to save Lu Oyu's life, but you're clearly trying to save several lives. The Freedom Federation's envoys came to Radiance to attend the ceremony. Fists and kicks have no eyes in a duel. I can accept the death of my beloved. That's why, Nana, as the leader of the Freedom Federation, even if you successfully ascend to godhood, you cannot disgrace the Freedom Federation. I know you've already given your seed of Satan to Lu Oyu, but I remember that you should still have another seed of Satan. Why don't you just take out this Satan's seed and settle this matter? Once again, the Goddess of Mercy spoke in an awe-inspiring and righteous manner. No matter how one looked at it, these words were all for the good of the Freedom Federation. It was as if Nana had damaged the image of the Freedom Federation. It was as if the Goddess of Pity was trying her best to persuade Nana. For some reason, Li Shu felt a little better after hearing Lian Shen's words. Not only had they failed to achieve their goal of leading the team to the Radiance sect, but the plan had also failed. They had also lost a large amount of resources. But now, with Goddess Lian's words, Nana would probably have to bleed together with him. The extra Satan's seed in Nana's hand was obtained when she was competing with Li Shu. Even though Li Shu could tell that Goddess Lian harbored ill intentions towards Nana, Li Xian also chose not to participate. Instead, he watched coldly from the sidelines. In fact, when Goddess Lian Shen said these words, the ones who were the most shocked were the 13 leaders of the Radiance sect. Even the Moon Empress looked at Goddess Lian Shen with a complicated gaze. If Goddess Lian Shen didn't come from the Freedom Federation and was one of the 16 leaders of the Freedom Federation, the Moon Empress would have thought that Goddess Lian Shen was the Radiance sect's leader. Previously, Goddess Lian Shen told Lin Yuan that she wanted to accept Lin Yuan as her beloved. This sentence angered the Moon Empress so much that she almost attacked Goddess Lian Shen on the spot. Lin Yuan rejected Goddess Lian Shen in public, which made the Moon Empress feel much better. After Goddess Lian Shen publicly expressed that she wanted to accept Lin Yuan as her beloved, since Nana appeared, Goddess Lian Shen had spoken up for the Radiance sect for the 3rd time. Although her words were to protect the Freedom Federation, Her actions were indeed beneficial to the Radiance sect. When the Moon Empress found out about this, Goddess Lian Shen would definitely look for her. After guessing for a long time, the Moon Empress couldn't guess Goddess Lian Shen's motive. After guessing for a long time, she couldn't guess Goddess Lian Shen's motive. Originally, the Moon Empress didn't intend to agree to Na's request. However, if Na Ken took out a Satan's seed, Nana could immediately take Lu Oyu out of the Radiance sect. Back then, the Moon Empress was willing to take out so many resources to exchange for the Satan's seed in Li Shu's hands. This was enough to show the importance of the Satan's seed. In fact, the Satan's seed didn't have any effect on the Moon Empress. The Satan's seed was only useful to creatures like demons. The Moon Empress wanted more of this Satan's seed because of Lin Yuan. According to the bet, the Radiance sect had obtained a middle-rank demon and a great sea demon that had awakened its natal water. When the bet was made, it was agreed that the middle-rank demon and the great sea demon that had awakened its natal water would be given to the winner's side with the most outstanding performance. This person wasn't Ji Changdeng's disciple, Liu Yifan, but her disciple, Lin Yuan. In addition, the true desolate grade desolate bloodline Fey that the Radiance sect had used for the bet was also Lin Yuan's. After a spirit chi professional formed a contract with a desolate bloodline Fey, they could form a contract with both demons and demons at the same time. At present, the Moon Empress, who was blocking in front of Lin Yuan, was already thinking about how to pave the way for Lin Yuan. Nana gritted her teeth, and the pinkish-purple ghost pattern on her face became more intense. It was as though it would explode at any moment. If this was raised by the Radiance Federation, he would be able to bargain. 7017K. Chapter 1782. However, these words came from the mouth of the Pity Goddess, who was on her side. In Nana's opinion, ever since the Pity Goddess had fused with the mermaid bloodline, she had become more and more insane. Rumor had it that 10 years ago in the Freedom Ocean, the Pity Goddess, who had just become a god, actually fought with the Fool God and the Mirror God and was later suppressed by them. Nana was afraid that the Pity Goddess would lose her mind and really do something harmful to her. Even if she had the confidence to leave the Radiance Federation, she would never be able to take Lu Oyu with her. No matter how angry she was, Nana had to try her best to suppress her temper. She must not let her aura completely burst out. This was because if she completely burst out her aura in front of other experts, it was an act of provocation in itself. It was very likely that the Radiance Federation's holiness would attack her. Thinking of this, Nana said to Lu Oyu, who was beside her, "Lil Oyu, spit out everything that you put into the hollow stomach during the fight." Lu Oyu was still thinking about the calamity phaseless beast cub. However, Lu Oyu was not a person who did not understand the situation. Even if Nana didn't remind him, Lu Oyu understood what was going on in front of him. Lu Oyu urged the spiritual power that he had just recovered, and a huge black and red stomach appeared out of nowhere in front of him. Yang Ling, Cai Hua, and Yu Changjian were all digested by the stomach. Yang Ling, Cai Hua, and Yu Changjian's phase were also digested, as well as parts of their sacred source life forms. These things were all spat out by Lu Oyu. Lu Oyu knew very well that he had no choice but to vomit. Since he was going to vomit, he had to vomit everything out. He could not hide anything. Lu Oyu felt very humiliated when he spat out the spoils of war from the black and red stomach. Lu Oyu's eyes were fixed on him. Lu Oyu knew very well that this young man must be the next Radiance envoy. 2 years later, he was destined to have another battle with this young man. He saw the way Lu Oyu was looking at him. In fact, after the battle with Lu Oyu, he no longer regarded Lu Oyu as his opponent. For Lu Oyu to be able to reach his current strength, he must have been working very hard to improve since he was young. Lin Yuan might be very powerful now, but he had only been in this world for a total of 10 months. In 10 months, he had gone from having nothing to catching up with the standards of the various top youths in the Federation. If Lin Yuan was given another 2 years to develop, he was not sure to what extent he could develop. Lin Yuan, whose mentality had changed, suddenly felt that Lu Oyu's expression was very ridiculous. Thus, Lin Yuan simply blinked twice at Lu Oyu. Given his relationship with Liu Jie and Zhong Ziyi, this expression could be understood as a friendly interaction. However, Lin Yuan and Lu Oyu were enemies and not friends. In Lu Oyu's eyes, such an expression could be said to be an expression of extreme mockery. Lu Oyu almost couldn't hold it in and exploded. Fortunately, reason won over anger, so Lu Oyu did not do anything extreme. Otherwise, he would have to pay even more. Lu Oyu wasn't the only one who saw Lin Yuan's winking expression. Since the end of the battle, Lin Yuan had been the center of attention. Countless viewers were staring at Lin Yuan through Star Web. At this moment, Star Web was in a state of excitement. Hui Yarrow had emerged victorious in this battle against the Freedom Federation. Everyone was proud of it. During the battle, the atmosphere was tense. Even if they knew that Black and Lin Yuan were the same person, there was no intense discussion. Now that the team battle was over, it was the time for the Star Web viewers to vent their emotions. The bullet comments in the live-streaming room kept rolling. Various Star Web reporters were reporting on Star Web. Many DI masters began to post one post after another on the Star Web. Now, the Star Web viewers were passing through the veteran factions and top faction members, constantly spreading the news. They already vaguely knew that Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple. Due to the special status of Lin Yuan, Zhong Ziyi, Liu Yifan, Gao Feng, and Liu Jie, these creation masters no longer posted anything related to Lin Yuan and the others. They started to analyze Lin Yuan and the others' phase. Instead, they started to use their creation master knowledge to analyze the Freedom Federation's members' phase and sacred source lifeforms. Yang Ling, Cai Hua, and Yu Chongjian were already dead. The introduction of the trio's sacred source lifeforms still attracted a large number of Star Web viewers. Many of the younger generation were preparing to treasure the recording of this duel and use it as a goal to encourage themselves. After this duel, it could be said that Lin Yuan had used his strength to overshadow the Radiant's third Radiance envoy, Liu Yifan. He had become an existence even more dazzling than the eminences in the Radiant's sacred hall. Therefore, Lin Yuan's eye-catching performance against Lu Oyu had instantly exploded on Star Web. When Dao 3 lives. Lord Black's blink is so cool. But this blink is for Lu Oyu. Why do I want to laugh so much? Star Phoenix Eye, haha. Look at how angry Lord Lin Yuan is. I dare to bet that Lu Oyu will never dare to come to the Radiant's Sacred Hall's territory again. That might be the case, I can't hold it in anymore. I still want to say that Lord Lin Yuan is awesome. Later, I will bring my family to have a feast to celebrate. Early autumn is like a dream. Lu Oyu will probably have a chance to face off against Lord Lin Yuan in the Myriad Nations Conference in 2 years. Do you still remember Lu Oyu's ability that killed Lord Liu Jie's insect-type carcinoma Fei? I feel like there's something wrong with that skill. Magical Jie's Eye, Lu Oyu can't defeat Lord Lin Yuan now. Even if Lu Oyu improves, Lord Lin Yuan will not stagnate. I think it will be the same result in 2 years. The commotion on Star Web would probably last for a long time. During this process, Lin Yuan, who had just winked at Lu Oyu, realized that Lu Oyu's aura had disappeared. In the shrine deep within his soul, the growth of the power of faith seemed to have sped up. Lin Yuan blinked again, unsure if it was an illusion. Xia Qing and An he had seen the 5-on-5 collision just now. Xia Qing didn't know Lin Yuan before. However, he now remembered Lin Yuan deeply in his heart. The silver-masked Lin Yuan had previously made Xia Qing feel cold and distant. But now that he had taken off his mask and blinked, Xia Qing looked over. However, there was a hint of naivety and adorableness to her. Xia Qing couldn't help but burst into laughter. When she looked at Lin Yuan, there was a hint of emotion that even Xia Qing herself didn't realize. Before the start of this duel, Xia Qing didn't think that anyone in the Radiant's Sacred Hall's younger generation could be compared to her in strength. But now, Xia Qing found someone who was not weaker than her. 7017K. Chapter 1783. Xia Qing had always been abnormally proud. It could be said that Xia Qing had always played with Liu Yifan's batch of Radiance envoys. This was because Xia Qing's brother was the #1 Radiance envoy. Xia Qing had started much earlier than Zhong Ziyi, Jiyu Lang, and An He. Xia Qing had been born with a golden spoon in her mouth. Although her parents had sacrificed their lives for Hui Yaro, Xia Qing had always been raised by her grandfather. She had been nurtured by Hui Yaro since she was young. All along, Xia Qing had not really put Jiyu Lang, Zhong Ziyi, and he, and the others in her eyes. Xia Qing did not look down on Zhong Ziyi, Jiyu Lang, and he, and the others. Xia Qing had always been abiding by an objective fact because strength was there for all to see. Previously, when facing Liu Jie, Xia Qing was willing to give up the Radiance 100 Sequences #1 throne. First, it was because Xia Qing admired Liu Jie, which had nothing to do with strength. What Xia Qing admired was Liu Jie, who was willing to sacrifice his life and his future to protect the safety of Cold Frost City. It was just like how Xia Qing admired her parents very much even though she had never met them. When Xia Qing's parents were on a mission, they had also encountered the opening of a Class 5 dimensional rift. During the active period, this Class 5 dimensional rift had appeared in the suburbs of Cloud Pool City without warning. Once this Class 5 underground dimensional rift spread, the ground would collapse. At least half of Cloud Pool City's area would experience an earth-shattering disaster. A large number of ordinary people would die. Due to the opening of the dimensional rift, space was blocked, and the phone could no longer be reached. They could only wait for someone to discover it. Only by leaving the range of the dimensional rift could they call for reinforcements. Xia Qing's parents were very strong, and they had been able to survive in this Class 5 dimensional rift for close to 6 hours. Their purpose in the Class 5 underground dimensional rift was not to survive. Instead, it was to prevent the underground lifeforms that surged out of the Class 5 underground dimensional rift from entering Cloud Pool City. By the time the Spirit Guards and Cloud Pool Guards arrived, Xia Qing's mother was already dead. Xia Qing's father had also sacrificed his vitality to use his body as a shield and died. It was precisely because Liu Jie and her parents had similar experiences that Xia Qing had given up her position. Otherwise, even if Liu Jie made it clear that he would not fight for the position of the Radiance Envoys, the Radiance Envoys would not dare to do so. Even if Xia Qing didn't want to expose her strength, she would still fight Liu Jie. Even if Xia Qing admired Liu Jie, it did not mean that Xia Qing recognized Liu Jie's strength. Even though Liu Jie had used the insect-type carcinoma Fei during his fight with Long Dao, Xia Qing was both surprised and curious. However, Xia Qing still had a way to restrain these insect-type carcinoma Feis. Speaking of the Desolate Bloodline Fei, Xia Qing's Desolate Bloodline Fei had already reached the Great Desolate Realm last year. If it were not for the fact that Xia Qing was not a Radiance Envoy, she would not have been able to enter the Desolate Secret Realm. Xia Qing's Desolate Bloodline Fei could be even stronger. At the beginning of the battle, Xia Qing was very nervous. Although Xia Qing had no personal relationship with Zhong Ziyi, Liu Jie, Black, and the others. However, Xia Qing was still afraid that these Radiance sect elites of the same generation as her would be injured. He was also afraid that Hui Yaro's dignity would be damaged. If not for the rules, the Freedom Federation wouldn't have picked him. Xia Qing wanted to jump into the battle. However, when Lin Yuan had summoned Chaimi during the battle with Han Qi, Chaimi's aura had disappeared. It had already let Xia Qing know that Lin Yuan was extraordinary. However, Xia Qing still didn't take Lin Yuan seriously. After all, Zhong Ziyi, Jiyu Lang, and the others could also use Diamond X Fantasy V Phase as B-rank Spirit Qi professionals. It was an attack that only a myth breed Fei could produce. It was a common thing for geniuses to fight above their level. It was Lin Yuan's sword skill, Silver Turtle Mirror Strike, which reflected the creation breed phase attack. Only then did Xia Qing take Lin Yuan's strength seriously. With the strength of a B-rank Spirit Qi professional, the attack was an entire grade higher. Only such strength could be compared with Xia Qing's strength. It could be said that among her peers, Xia Qing found someone she could communicate with for the first time. Due to the acknowledgement, Xia Qing felt increasingly close to Lin Yuan. Nana saw Lu Ouyu's angry expression because of Lin Yuan's wink. He said, "Lil Ouyu, you still have a long way to go. Remember this day. You still have 2 years to wash away today's humiliation." Nana's words caused the Moon Empress to look at Nana differently. For Nana to say such words at such a time. It was enough to see Nana's style as an expert. Just as Lu Oyu heard Nana's words and nodded. The goddess of mercy continued to speak. I still have other things to do. I'm going to leave first. The goddess of mercy's words caused Li Shu and Nana's expressions to change again. This was the Radiance's territory, and the three of them belonged to the same entity. They belonged to the same interest group. The goddess of mercy was the strongest among the three. Once the goddess of mercy left, the Radiance's deterrence would be greatly reduced. Therefore, no matter what, the two of them had to leave with the goddess of mercy. Nana took out a Satan's seed and handed it to the Moon Empress along with the three uncontracted sacred source lifeforms and the emerald green dimensional gem. At that moment, the mountain river set bells, which were ranked 4th in the Radiant Stabilization Nation, immediately disappeared with the shield in the air. The goddess of mercy, Nana, and Li Shu left the Radiance with the independent 100 sequence members who did not participate in the battle and Lu Oyu, who had luckily escaped. The Radiance 100 sequence test had finally come to an end. The Moon Empress turned around and handed the resources that she had obtained from Nana to Lin Yuan. Nana saved Lu Oyu from your hands, so these resources that are used to redeem Lu Oyu's life should be given to you. As for the rest of the resources used for the bet, I will send them to you in one day. This was the first time the Moon Empress referred to herself as Lin Yuan's master in public. It could be said that the Moon Empress words were equivalent to announcing Lin Yuan's identity to the world. The live broadcast on Star Web did not end, and the Star Web audience could hear what the Moon Empress had said to Lin Yuan. From the moment Black's mask fell off, there were rumors on Star Web that Black was the Moon Empress disciple. However, rumors were ultimately just rumors and could not be considered accurate news. After all, the Moon Empress had never publicly announced that Lin Yuan was her disciple. Lin Yuan had also never publicly announced that the Moon Empress was his master. Many people even thought that the person who spread this kind of news was crazy. If he was not crazy, how would he dare to spread rumors about the Moon Empress? Who would have thought that the rumor was actually true? The Moon Empress had personally revealed her relationship with Lin Yuan. This immediately caused an uproar on Star Web. 7017K. Chapter 1784. However, being surprised was just being surprised. Only the explanation of Lin Yuan being the Moon Empress disciple could explain why Lin Yuan was so powerful at such a young age. Ever since Black and Lin Yuan gained popularity on Star Web, the Star Web netizens had been guessing Black and Lin Yuan's origins. Although he had proven that Black and Lin Yuan were the same person, he had never revealed his background. The truth about Lin Yuan's background was also revealed. There were plenty of creation masters that were analyzing Lin Yuan's phase for the sake of popularity. Now that they knew Lin Yuan's identity, these related posts were immediately deleted by those creation masters. Lin Yuan lifted his eyes to look at the Moon Empress. When he heard what the Moon Empress had just said and the gentle smile on her face, he felt proud. Lin Yuan hurriedly replied, "Master, I'll go to your place tomorrow. It just so happens that after the 100 sequence assessment, I want to go out and train for a period of time." The Moon Empress was slightly startled. Then, his smile became even gentler. He reached out to tidy up Lin Yuan's collar, which had become messy because of the fight just now. "Little Yuan, I've brought you the Moonlight Royal Robe. Go and change into it. The uninvited guest has left. The 100 sequence ceremony will continue in a while." While the Moon Empress was speaking, Mystic Moon had already taken the gift box containing the full set of moonlight gowns and came to Lin Yuan's side. "Your Highness, follow me to the Radiant Sacred Hall to change your clothes." When Lin Yuan heard Mystic Moon's words, he wanted to refuse and say that he could do it himself. However, when he thought about how complicated and difficult it was to wear the moonlight crown robe, he did not reject Shen Yu. If there was no Mystic Moon, Lin Yuan would have to wear this moonlight crown robe. It would take at least an hour and a half to fully equip it. Furthermore, it was very likely that he would not be able to finish wearing it in an hour and a half. After all, there were more than 100 accessories for the Moonlight Royal Robe. It had been too long since the last time he wore the Moonlight Royal Robe. Furthermore, He had only worn the moonlight crown robe once. Thus, he could no longer remember where to put the accessories for the lunar regalia robe. Lin Yuan followed Mystic Moon into the interior of the Radiant's sacred hall. Liu Jie, Zhong Ziyi, Gao Feng, Xia Qing, Jiyu Lang, and he and the others. They all heard Lin Yuan's words. When Xia Qing saw Lin Yuan's strength, she felt as though she had finally discovered a young person as powerful as her. However, through the strength that Lin Yuan had displayed, the others saw the gap between them and Lin Yuan. This gap could be said to be unimaginably big. Jiyu Lang and An He, who were standing in the stands, were very clear. If Lin Yuan had not been present, he would not have been able to win this duel. Lin Yuan was already so strong, but he was preparing to set off to train. Lin Yuan was so diligent that An He felt a little ashamed. At this moment, An He understood that apart from talent, there were other objective factors in the strength gap between him and Lin Yuan. The Radiant's 100 sequence members no longer dared to target Lin Yuan. This was because the gap between him and the other Radiant's 100 sequence members was simply too huge. However, it did not hinder Lin Yuan's diligent spirit, which encouraged the other Radiant's 100 sequence members. The other 12 Radiant's Abyssals looked at the Moon Empress. They knew very well that the Moon Empress wanted Lin Yuan to wear the Moon Regalia. This was to officially announce Lin Yuan's identity to the world. The entire Origin world was in turmoil. This turmoil was not only because of the confrontation between the Freedom Federation and the Radiance Federation. No matter how strong the Freedom Federation and the Radiance Federation were, the matters of the two federations could not affect the entire Origin world. Except for the Freedom Federation and the Radiance Federation. None of the federations with Class 5 Creation Masters would be quiet. The Mother Goddess Federation and the Sand State Federation had already started to collide and engage in close combat. It was unknown what the Pagoda Cannon's purpose was, but it had been accumulating power in the dark. Those federations without Class 5 Creation Masters, as long as they were in the same continent, they had never truly stopped. At such a time, a batch of the younger generation would stand up. It had a completely different meaning compared to the previous batch of the younger generation. In this chaotic world, the younger generation would bear a much heavier responsibility. At the thought of this, the Abyssals with disciples waved to their disciples. His Holiness called An He, Chef Supreme called Zhong Ziyi, Bamboo Monarch called Jiyu Lang, Night Leaning Moon called Liu Jie, and His Holiness Cicada Cry called Gao Feng. Even the old man called Xia Qing to his side. He handed over the royal robe in his hand that was waiting to be replicated. Since the Moon Empress had already taken action, they naturally had no reason not to follow. He could make use of this opportunity to give these little fellows a little more responsibility. The battlefield in 2 years' time would be much bloodier than today's. It was also more formal. While Lin Yuan was wearing Dai Yuehua's regal robe, Mystic Moon said, "That's right. Your Highness, if Shueshuro hadn't hidden in your hair, the Moon Empress would have interfered countless times." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's heart stirred. But to be honest, even if Shueshuro didn't lie in his hair, if he wasn't a match for Lu Oyu, he didn't wish for the Moon Empress to make a move. Lu Oyu's master, Nana, acted to protect Lu Oyu. This matter would definitely spread out. The reputation of the Freedom Federation was bound to suffer because of this. Lin Yuan did not want the Radiance's glory to be covered in a layer of dust because of him. Lin Yuan might have lived an extra lifetime in his previous life. However, in this life, he had been born from his mother's womb. All the fetters were with Hui Yarrow. Lin Yuan was a true Radiant citizen. In fact, Lin Yuan had his own plans. After the Radiance 100 sequence ended, Lin Yuan planned to head to the Divine Wood Federation as soon as possible. On one hand, the Holy Wood Mystic Realm was about to start. On the other hand, Di Wanmi had been sent to the Divine Wood Federation by Lin Yuan. Di Wanmi might just be a puppet of Red Thorn, but he was still a genuine Class 5 Creation Master. This clash with the Freedom Federation made Lin Yuan know that he didn't have much time left. He had to take down the Agro-Pattern continent in a very short time. In addition, he couldn't relax in the exploration of the swamp world. Now that he had confirmed that the thing that could make Morbius complete came from a dimensional world, Li Shu planned to take a look at the Swamp East Palace in the Swamp East Circle. Previously, Lin Yuan didn't rashly step into the Swamp East Circle because he didn't think he had the strength to do so. After all, the Swamp East Circle gathered all the powerful apostles in the entire Swamp East area. It was a city established by the apostles. It was rumored that there were rulers in the Swamp East Circle. Lin Yuan, who was a fake ruler, didn't dare to rashly go against those real rulers. But now, the power of faith in Lin Yuan's shrine was dozens of times more than before the start of the Radiance 100 sequence. Such a huge amount of power of faith was used to enhance Bai Yang. Bai Yang's strength should be able to surpass the limits of an apostle. Chapter 1785. Lin Yuan had never had the chance to test it out. However, considering the strength of his power of faith, Lin Yuan decided to wait until he went to the swamp world to test it out with Bai Yang. When Lin Yuan had used the power of faith on the Void Shadow Fiend, he knew that the power of faith had a requirement for the dimensional lifeform's strength. The Void Shadow Fiend's strength had been at the creation breed level. Through the power of faith, Lin Yuan could at most raise the Void Shadow Fiend's strength to the mid-stage immortal level. Later, when the Void Shadow Fiend reached the immortal level, Lin Yuan had used the power of faith to increase its strength to the peak of immortal level. Lin Yuan had used the power of faith in his shrine to increase Bai Yang's strength, which had already reached the high-stage immortal level. It was certain that Bai Yang would break through the immortal level and reach the eternal level. However, if he increased it further, the range of increase would not be too large. Therefore, Lin Yuan felt that he should use his status as a ruler in the swamp world to accept an apostle stronger than Bai Yang. It would be best if the apostle's strength could reach the eternal level. That was the so-called level of a class 13 dimensional life form. Lin Yuan had heard Bai Yang mention that an apostle's strength could reach the eternal level after reaching class 13. It was not certain that they could become a ruler. It could even be said that among 100 class 13 dimensional life form apostles, only one could evolve into a ruler. Moreover, the power of faith had reached an extremely high level, and the apostle had reached class 13. When attempting to break through to the ruler level, they would face great danger, and it was very easy for them to die. Lin Yuan had speculated that the sacred source lifeforms obtained from class 5 dimensional rifts that suddenly opened in a spatial stable region when the dimensional rifts were not active. They were usually more colorful than the sacred source lifeforms obtained from other dimensional rifts. Lin Yuan thought to himself after understanding the mystery of the sacred source lifeforms. Those class 5 dimensional rifts that suddenly opened must have something to do with the class 13 apostles who had failed to break through to the ruler level. Since it was very difficult to evolve to the ruler level, it was very difficult. 9 out of 10 chances of survival. If Lin Yuan could help these apostles break through and give them a chance to break through to the next level, these apostles would have no reason to reject him. No matter what, it was still the same. It was just like how Fays needed pure spirit chi to increase their strength. No matter what stage dimensional creatures reached, they needed source-type powers. He had accumulated quite a lot of source-type power. Moreover, Lin Yuan was able to deceive Bai Yang by fusing with Bai Lan when there was not much faith power left in the shrine. Now that the power of faith had multiplied, he felt that it was not impossible for him to deceive the ruler of the swamp world. Lin Yuan had never been willing to rely on his master, the Moon Empress. However, the divine weeping moon beast, whose strength had already broken through to the eternal realm, had always been in the swamp world. It turned into a green moon above his head. If Lin Yuan really encountered something that was difficult for him to solve, he would not be able to do so. He could ask the weeping divine moon beast for help. After going to the East Marsh Palace, he had to make a trip to the Myriad Ruler's Myriad Palace. Lin Yuan's goal in going to the Myriad Palace was simple. It was to exchange for a batch of resources. If a sacred source lifeform was obtained through a class 5 dimensional rift, it was indeed extremely secretive. There was no way to know what was inside the rainbow light. However, if it was obtained by killing an apostle, based on the abilities of the apostle's totem when it was alive, it would be impossible to obtain it. He could basically determine the scope of the sacred source lifeform's abilities. Even if he could not estimate it very accurately, he could determine if it was suitable for a certain spirit chi professional. The Myriad Palace was used to exchange source-type items and sacred source lifeforms. According to Bai Yang, they would all indicate their origins. In this chaotic world, Lin Yuan had to quickly strengthen Sky City. In order to strengthen Sky City, the first thing he had to do was to increase the strength of Sky City's internal members. There were already quite a number of core members in Sky City. Apart from the original core members like Liu Jie, Wen Yu, the Mother of Bloodbath, and Endless Summer. They had also recruited Duan He, Ji Feng, Listen, and the others. After that, Qin Lun, Qin Shuo, and Xiao Hua and Xiao Cao, who possessed the extreme Night Jade Sky Scorpion, had also become the backbone of Sky City. The Celestial Council for Sacred Source Lifeforms was based on Sky City's organization. The Celestial Council now had several members. Apart from people like Yin Lin, who were not simple in the Celestial Council. If the others wanted to grow, each of them was a resource black hole. They needed Lin Yuan to earn money to support their families. As Morbius grade increased, the Spirit Lock spatial zone continued to expand, and new facilities appeared inside. Apart from being able to obtain pure spirit chi, Lin Yuan could also use the elemental well water to concoct the purest elemental energy in the world. Any spirit chi professional would definitely need these things. Hui Yarrow was a whole. Zhong Ziyi, Jiyu Lang, and he, and the others were all considered Lin Yuan's friends. In the next 2 years, Lin Yuan would naturally not be stingy with his friends. The consumption of all kinds of resources gave Lin Yuan pressure and motivation. When Mystic Moon helped Lin Yuan put on the Moonlight Crown Robe, Lin Yuan was very cooperative. However, Mystic Moon could tell from Lin Yuan's eyes that he was thinking about something. Mystic Moon quickly quietened down, thinking that Lin Yuan had gained something from the battle just now. The Mystic Moon was a dragon species fae, and it was a fae of the dragon species. She had an extraordinary pickiness toward beauty. The Moon Empress and Cold Moon were the clearest about this. If 3 kinds of fruits were placed in front of Mystic Moon, she would definitely choose the prettiest one to eat. Even if that fruit tasted the worst among the 3. Even if Mystic Moon was extremely picky about beauty, when Lin Yuan suddenly turned into a mermaid, she was still stunned. It gave Mystic Moon a new understanding of beauty. Now that Lin Yuan had removed his mermaid state, Mystic Moon took a closer look at Lin Yuan. She found that Lin Yuan's facial features were almost the same as when he had just turned into a mermaid. However, Lin Yuan's bone structure and facial features were softer in his merfolk transformation. Lin Yuan's human form lacked the androgynous beauty of his mermaid form. Instead, he had the vitality and sunshine that belonged to a youth. Under this youth's vitality and sunshine, there was an indescribable forbearance and profundity. This forbearance and profundity made Lin Yuan not look like a youth of 18 or 19 years old. However, Mystic Moon could understand. Through the information, Mystic Moon clearly knew what kind of life Lin Yuan and Chu Ci had led in the past. Soon, with Mystic Moon's help, Lin Yuan had put on the Moonlight Crown Robe. As Morbius grade increased, True Data's detection range became wider and wider. 7017 K. Chapter 1786. When he had worn the Moonlight Crown Robe last time, Lin Yuan had curiously used Morbius True Data to investigate the materials used in the Moonlight Crown Robe. At that time, Lin Yuan had discovered that almost half of the materials couldn't be detected by him. This time, Lin Yuan had detected most of the materials. However, there were still some materials that Morbius couldn't detect at its current level. This startled Lin Yuan. One had to know that the current Morbius could even examine undying beings. However, he couldn't detect it now, which meant that this robe contained materials produced from an eternal species fae. Even Lin Yuan, who had seen a lot of things, at this moment. He also truly understood how luxurious this set of Moonlight Royal Robe was. Wearing the Moonlight Crown Robe, Lin Yuan's body immediately gave off a bit of nobility. This nobility blended with Lin Yuan's sunny temperament, making Lin Yuan look not difficult to approach at all. Mystic Moon reached out to help Lin Yuan tidy up the collar on his neck and said, "The Moon Empress is really far-sighted. The Moon Empress truly has the foresight to know that His Young Highness is still growing. She deliberately added a layer of silver muslin pearl fish skin inside the moonlight crown robe. Otherwise, when His Young Highness wore it, this moonlight crown robe would appear to be a little small. Through Mystic Moon's words, Lin Yuan knew how much effort his master, the Moon Empress, had put into creating this moonlight crown robe. Under normal circumstances, Her Majesties would wear the robe. However, there was no silver muslin pearl fish skin. Lin Yuan had heard of the silver muslin pearl fish, which was a type of fish carcinoma fey. Once the silver muslin pearl fish appeared, it would quickly absorb the surrounding spatial energy. It would digest the absorbed spatial energy and enhance itself. This would cause a spatial shuttle, causing a large area of spatial instability. It was very likely to cause several dimensional rifts to open in a small area. It was the same level of harm as the yin-yang chaos butterfly that Lin Yuan had encountered in the Divine Wood Federation. In order to raise the silver muslin pearlfish, the space needed to be reinforced first. Then, a large amount of spatial spiritual materials would be consumed to feed the silver muslin pearlfish for them to absorb. The silver muslin pearlfish's normal color was bluish-gray, and it was extremely good at hiding in the sea. When the silver muslin pearlfish's fish skin became silver, and the layers of the fish skin came off, the skin of the silver muslin pearlfish could be carefully peeled off. This wouldn't cause any harm to the silver muslin pearlfish. However, the silver muslin pearlfish couldn't be upgraded. Next, the silver muslin pearlfish would absorb spatial energy again and change the state of the fish skin. The skin of the silver yarn pearlfish could be said that each layer of yarn was a layered space. Apart from the toughness of the silver muslin pearlfish skin, which allowed him to wear the Moonlight Royal Robe forever. When it was attacked, the attack hit the Moonlight Royal Robe. Apart from the defensive power of the spiritual material itself, the skin of the silver veil pearlfish was like a thin spatial structure. Only by piercing through these spatial structures could Lin Yuan's safety be threatened. A silver muslin pearlfish would take half a year to peel off a layer of fish skin when there were enough spatial spirit materials. His Moonlight Royal Robe was made of at least 30 pieces of silver yarn pearl fish skin. He reckoned that even if his master, the Moon Empress, had accumulated the skin of the silver muslin pearlfish, she would not be able to survive. They were all used to make this moonlight crown robe. Mystic Moon looked at the time and said to Lin Yuan, "Young lord, it's almost time. Let's go out." Lin Yuan followed Mystic Moon out of the lounge on the 3rd floor of the Radiant Sacred Hall. At the entrance of the Radiant Sacred Hall, Liu Jie, Zhong Ziyi, Jiyu Lang, Jiao Feng, and he, and the others were all waiting here. Everyone was wearing a replica of the royal robe. The only one Lin Yuan didn't know was a young girl with waist-length hair. This young girl looked obviously 1 or 2 years younger than Zhong Ziyi, Liu Jie, and the others. Just as Lin Yuan was about to greet everyone, this young girl, who was wearing a light golden royal robe embroidered with an ancient golden tree, walked toward Lin Yuan. The moment he saw this ancient golden tree, Lin Yuan immediately knew this young girl's identity. Lin Yuan had heard his master, the Moon Empress, mention it. Among the younger generation of the Radiant Sacred Hall, the strongest person who was qualified to compete for the Radiant's envoy position was the granddaughter of that old man, named Xia Qing. The ancient golden tree that had grown out of the imperial court had covered most of the Radiant's Sacred Hall. It had forcibly lifted up the thousands of volcanoes that had erupted from the blooming platycodon in the sky. The ancient golden tree embroidered on the young girl's body indicated the young girl's identity. This young girl should be that old man's granddaughter, Xia Qing. Xia Qing came to Lin Yuan's side, smiled, and said very warmly, "It's our first time meeting." "Hello, Lin Yuan, my name is Xia Qing." The others also noticed Lin Yuan at this time and hurried to greet him. Zhong Ziyi, Liu Jie, Jiao Feng, and the others didn't know Xia Qing. However, the way he looked at Xia Qing was a little strange. And he remembered that his senior brother had said that Xia Qing was cold and had never been that kind of enthusiastic. When Xia Qing met them just now, she just nodded. But now, when facing Lin Yuan, why did Xia Qing suddenly change? In fact, the most surprised people present were Xian Yu and the man in golden half-body armor behind Xia Qing. Xian Yu and the man in golden half-body armor were undoubtedly much more familiar with Xia Qing. They understood the pride in Xia Qing's heart very well. Xia Qing's current attitude toward Lin Yuan was obviously much more intimate than her attitude toward the other younger generation. Xian Yu thought in her heart, Lin Yuan is worthy of being our Radiant Moon Palace's young lord. He is so likable wherever he goes. However, the man in golden half-body armor obviously didn't think so. The man in golden half-body armor looked at Lin Yuan defensively and then looked at Xia Qing. He thought in his heart, the Moon Empress disciple is really beautiful. It was rumored that the leader of the Azure Federation's envoy, Azure Envoy Yin Lin, had a special relationship with Lin Yuan. The two of them even rode in the same Fey carriage intimately. When the Freedom Federation proposed to have an exhibition match with the Radiance Federation, Yin Lin suddenly spoke and decisively stood on the Radiance Federation's side. The man in golden armor keenly noticed that before Yin Lin spoke, her eyes deliberately looked around the Radiance Federation's younger generation's square formation. Finally, her eyes fell on the Moon Empress. At that time, the man in golden armor didn't understand what was going on. Now that he thought about it, Yin Lin was searching for the Moon Empress disciple, Lin Yuan, in the crowd. This meant that Yin Lin already knew Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple. However, she didn't know Lin Yuan's identity as black. Therefore, she couldn't find him. Xia Qing was now 19 years old, and she was 3 months away from her 20th birthday. This young lady was at the age where she first awakened to love. 7017K. Chapter 1787. At this age, if one were to have any thoughts, it would very likely cause one's entire life to be ruined. Back then, the Moon Empress was in her early 20s and was radiant with youth. At that time, the Moon Empress was simply too dazzling. The younger generation had competitors, but no one was a match for the Moon Empress. Even if the Moon Empress had a cold temperament, she had captured the hearts of countless people back then. His Holiness the Solitary Lamp was one of them. On the Azure Federation's side, there was even a Class 5 family head who had also appeared as a spectator during the Radiance 100 sequence test. As a result, this 5-star Azure aristocratic family's family head immediately took a fancy to the Moon Empress. Until now, he still hasn't taken a wife. Because he was unable to continue the bloodline, the former 5-star Azure family patriarch gave up the position of patriarch. He gave it to his younger brother. He became the guardian of his family. The Azure Daylight Tiger family had always been rather critical of the Moon Empress. However, all of this had nothing to do with the Moon Empress. However, back then, the Azure Daylight Tiger family's former family head had tried to woo the Moon Empress. He had done many shameful things. He was even beaten up twice by Night Leaning Moon and Solitary Eternal Lamp. When he thought of Night Leaning Moon, the golden-armored man couldn't help but bite his lips. For a moment, the golden-armored man couldn't figure out the relationship between Night Leaning Moon and the Moon Empress. Of course, the golden-armored man could only casually think about these things in his heart. The golden-armored man didn't have the guts to say such a thing. At that moment, the golden-armored man saw Lin Yuan reaching out and holding Xia Qing's hand. Then, he smiled brightly and said, "Nice to meet you, Xia Qing. I'm Lin Yuan." When he smiled, his lips curled up slightly, and 2 dimples appeared on the corners of his mouth. Her lips were red and her teeth were pearly white. Her smile was as bright as the sun, and she was in high spirits. Lin Yuan's smile caused the golden-armored man's heart to tremble. Oh my God! The Moon Empress disciple really knows how to laugh. Which young lady could withstand such a smile? Xia Qing was slightly startled when she saw Lin Yuan's smile. Before Xia Qing could speak, Jiao Feng took the lead and patted Lin Yuan's shoulder. "Brother Lin, you're simply too strong. If it weren't for you in this battle, we would have all been defeated." Jiao Feng was straightforward with his words. Plus, he had just fought a hearty battle and won. Jiao Feng was excited. Therefore, when he spoke, he did not pay much attention to Liu Yifan. It seemed as though Liu Yifan, the third-ranked Radiance envoy, was useless. In fact, although Liu Yifan was not in the limelight in this battle, if Liu Yifan had not used the Heavenly Peach Bird, the Yin-Yang Twin Ox, and the 4 symbols 8 trigrams goat, he would not have been able to defeat Liu Yifan. He also had the support of the Gem Witch, a sacred source life form. Even if Liu Jie allowed the Insect Queen to fuse with the sacred source life form, the Thousand Insect Queen core, to enter the ultimate weapon form and even the Insect Queen awakening form, the Insect Queen would not be able to recover. The team had long since been defeated by the enemy. It would not wait for Lin Yuan to recover from the stalemate with the phaseless beast. As a defense-type spirit chi professional, it was hard for him to be outstanding if he wasn't an attacker. In a team, a pure defense-type spirit chi professional's presence was even lower than a pure support-type spirit chi professional's. If it were in the past, and he, who had always been very protective of his senior brother, would definitely be unhappy. But now, and he did not have such a feeling. That was because he had watched this battle from start to finish. Jiao Feng had spoken an objective fact and did not mean to belittle anyone. Previously, he, Liu Jie, Jiao Feng, Jiu Lang, Zhong Ziyi, and he had held a meeting. They basically told each other the functions of their phase and sacred source life forms. Lin Yuan did not hide anything either. However, due to the urgency of time, no one summoned their phase to display their abilities and exclusive skills. As a result, Lin Yuan's phase gave everyone a pleasant surprise. Previously, he had always thought that there was no such thing as an all-round spirit chi professional in this world. Spirit chi professionals were divided into 4 major categories: power offense, defense, healing, and support. Ordinary spirit chi professionals would only choose to specialize in one of these 4 major categories. This way, it would be easier for them to play a role in the team. Spirit chi professionals who specialized in 2 categories were destined to not be as strong as those who specialized in only one. After all, spiritual energy was limited, and so was the number of contracted phase. However, Lin Yuan had subverted his understanding. Based on his previous understanding of Lin Yuan had only shown his side as a power offense-type spirit chi professional. Upon knowing that Lin Yuan was black, his subconscious reaction was that it was absurd. This was because Black's position was a healing-type spirit chi professional. But in this battle, Black helped the team recover their spiritual power, and Source Sand helped the team block attacks and cover the swarm. That strange-looking healing-type Fei had taken Liu Jie's life. He also healed Jiao Feng's Yellow Spring Lily. In terms of attack, other than Zhong Ziyi's attack that broke the link between the 3 of them, the other 2 were the strongest. Liu Jie's Insect Queen mainly served as a distraction. It didn't have any practical effect. Therefore, the few attacks that could affect the outcome were all made by Lin Yuan without exception. And he had always had a sense of pride in his heart. It was hard to truly admire someone. Even if Lin Yuan had given him a large number of Creation Master resources to transform his awakening hibernation Earth Dragon bloodline, he would not be able to do so. And his feelings for Lin Yuan were just friendship, but also a little gratitude. But now, Lin Yuan had won this battle. And he was completely convinced by Lin Yuan. When Lin Yuan heard Jiao Feng's words, he hurriedly waved his hand and said, "It's everyone's credit that we can win this duel. If you hadn't protected me in the early stages, I would have been killed by the other party." Lin Yuan's words were by no means modest. It was the truth. In this duel, everyone did their best to make the most of their contribution. Until now, Lin Yuan felt that the World Calamity Beast was very special and powerful. Lin Yuan felt that his soul power, spiritual power, and wisdom were far superior to his peers. However, under the attack of the World Calamity Beast, Morbius had to continuously release Calm Mind in order to protect his mind. During this period of time, if Yang Ling, Cai Hue, Yu Changjian, or Qian Yu were able to get close to him, they would be able to kill him. Of course, through this battle, Lin Yuan had a very deep understanding of his strength. Qian Yu died, and Lu Oyu was forced to summon Nana. This meant that Qian Yu and Lu Oyu had used up their trump cards. But Lin Yuan didn't. In addition to those trump cards that couldn't be used, Lin Yuan still had 2 sword skills that he could use. The second function of the Holy Sword mode, which had a higher price, was not used. The second function of the Holy Sword mode was the strongest trump card that Lin Yuan could release in the current battle. Chapter 1788. Xian Yu had always known what kind of person Lin Yuan was. Xian Yu did not find it strange that Lin Yuan could say such a thing. However, the golden-armored man looked at Lin Yuan in surprise. It was fine if such a young person did not have the slightest bit of arrogance. But he was so thoughtful in handling matters. In terms of strength, Xie Qing had never competed with Lin Yuan. Before they fought, it was hard to say who would win. Chen Yu's strength was definitely stronger than Lin Yuan's. However, in the battle, Chen Yu was restrained by Lin Yuan in almost every kind of means. Xie Qing's sacred source lifeform seemed to be able to restrict Lin Yuan to a certain extent. Regardless of strength, Xie Qing's personality was far inferior to Lin Yuan's. Xie Qing's pride would create a barrier between her and others. Therefore, Xie Qing was not suitable to be a leader. This was also why the old man did not want Xie Qing to compete for the first Radiance Envoy position. He watched as Liu Jie, Zhong Ziyi, Jiyu Lang, Jiao Feng, and the others spoke one after another, all of them talking with Lin Yuan as the center. The golden-armored man looked at Lin Yuan deeply. At the same time, a sense of anticipation for the future arose in his heart. Compared to the Freedom Federation, unity would always be the Radiance Federation's strongest strength. The moment Lin Yuan and the others walked out of the Radiance Sacred Hall in their royal robes, the entire Star Web audience cheered again. The cheers on Star Web were incompatible with the solemn music in the Radiance Sacred Hall. However, if Lin Yuan had already controlled the phaseless beast, he would have noticed it. The Radiance Federation's luck was currently rising rapidly. The Moon Empress stood on the golden stone pillar and looked proudly at Lin Yuan, who was walking toward her step by step. Lin Yuan's path was destined to be very difficult. Otherwise, he would not have been so powerful. It was just like how the Moon Empress did not stand out in front of others, but only she knew how hard she had worked behind the scenes. There was no luck in one's strength. One had to climb up step by step. Only then could one become stronger. As Lin Yuan's master, the Moon Empress had never had the chance to participate in his hardships. On the contrary, Lin Yuan had helped her much more than she had helped Lin Yuan. Apart from the pure spirit qi, a lifespan rat had even saved his life. Seeing that Lin Yuan had walked to her side, the Moon Empress reached out and pulled him. He said to Lin Yuan, "Little Yuan, this world is yours from now on. Fly as you wish." Lin Yuan was slightly startled when he heard that. Then, he suddenly recalled that his master, the Moon Empress, had said something similar when he was building the Sky Castle. However, back then, his master, the Moon Empress, had told him not to be afraid. He told himself that there would always be a solid shield behind him and that he could fly freely. Right now, the Moon Empress' words were filled with affirmation and expectations for him. Lin Yuan gently held onto the Moon Empress' hand and said, "That's right. Master, I will fly higher into the sky and gather more moons for you." If Lin Yuan had said something like this when he had just accepted him as a disciple, he would have been shocked. Although the Moon Empress would be very touched, she would not take it seriously. However, Lin Yuan had already given him a cyan moon. At that moment, when the Moon Empress looked at Lin Yuan again, she realized something. In fact, unknowingly, Lin Yuan had already grown from a youth into a real man. However, the Moon Empress didn't know what she was feeling. There was joy, pride, and bitterness. In short, this feeling was very similar to when Lin Yuan had found out that Chu Ci had grown up. "Little Yuan, Master still has the same words. No matter how high you fly, Master will always protect you. As long as Master doesn't die, no one can bully you." In fact, when Lin Yuan and the others were in the team battle with the Freedom Federation's envoys, the Moon Empress and the Radiance Federation's other eminences were on guard. After all, the Heaven-Blessed Dojo had sent news that 2 members of the Fatter's 8 pages would be visiting the Radiance Federation. However, the Radiance 100 sequence test had completely ended, and those 2 members of the 8 pages had not appeared. Even on the side of the Freedom Federation, there weren't any problems. This made the Moon Empress feel very strange. The strangest thing was the change in Goddess Lian's attitude toward the Radiance Federation. On the Radiance Federation's land, it was better to have less trouble. It was naturally the best if there could be no conflict. Otherwise, if there was a conflict, the ones who would suffer the most would be the ordinary people. Shueshuro had been lying in Lin Yuan's hair. Beside Blue Lotus and White Phoenix in the Return from Faraway Manor, a beautiful woman wearing a light purple fur coat had appeared. This woman's eyes landed on the mother of Bloodbath without blinking. Tears were swirling in the beautiful woman's eyes. Her eyes were filled with tears, and from time to time, a teardrop would slide down the beautiful woman's cheek. It immediately set off a ripple in the air. It caused the stable space to bloom with bewitching foxtail flowers. The mother of Bloodbath had heard from Shueshuro that the beautiful woman in front of her, who was the heaven-blessed dojo's Grand Hall Master Ziqing, would come over to deliver her mother's remnant soul. During the long night conversation between the mother of Bloodbath and Shueshuro, Shueshuro had mentioned the relationship between Ziqing and her mother. Back then, after her mother had died because of the 5 pages of truth, Ziqing had been able to kill her way into the enemy's headquarters alone and kill the pagoda cannon's page of destiny at the risk of serious injuries. Just based on this point, Ziqing was the benefactor of this small family. Even the mother of Bloodbath had always had a cool temperament. After seeing Ziqing, she hurriedly called out to her. When the mother of Bloodbath called her Aunt Z, a gentle smile immediately appeared on Ziqing's beautiful face. Ziqing reached out and hugged the mother of Bloodbath. She said softly, "Little Qing, you've suffered all these years." On one side, Blue Lotus and White Phoenix were waiting for Ziqing's arrival in the Return from Faraway Manor. On the other side, they were also waiting for news from Shueshuro. The pagoda cannon had yet to appear, which made Blue Lotus and White Phoenix feel that something was wrong. However, the information they had received could not be false. In their opinion, once 2 of the 8 pages of the pagoda cannon appeared, with their strength and Hui Yaro's Majesty's strength, they would definitely be able to take down these 2 members of the pagoda cannon. Furthermore, as long as a few of Hui Yaro's Majesties paid attention to protecting the surroundings, even if there were losses, the losses would be very small. Especially now that even Big Sister Ziqing had come. Big Sister Ziqing's strength was above the eternal realm. According to the human language, she could already be called a god. This would undoubtedly be a greater guarantee for the 2 members of the pagoda cannon. But where did the people of the pagoda cannon go? Could it be that the 2 members of the pagoda cannon who came to Hui Yaro heard the news in advance and ran away? While Blue Lotus and White Phoenix were thinking about all this, they did not know that someone was sitting in the Spirit Food Pavilion and was even more anxious. 7017K. Chapter 1789. The celebration after the war with the Freedom Federation had already ended. The Star Web live broadcast in the Radiance Sacred Hall had been cut off. It could be said that the entire Radiance 100 sequence test had ended. In the face of Huiyao's celebration, Huiyao's young prodigy defeated the Freedom Federation's young prodigy. He had won glory for Huiyao. Those who came from relatively well-off families all headed for the Spirit Food Pavilion. They were going to have a big meal at the Spirit Food Pavilion to celebrate. These people who came to the Spirit Food Pavilion all found that, in the corner of the hall, an exceptionally righteous-looking man frowned slightly. He did not respond to the middle-aged women who tried to strike up a conversation with him. As he pondered, he looked in the direction of the Radiance Sacred Hall. This middle-aged man with a face full of righteousness was 6-page whipping. 6th-page whipping was very clear about his and 2nd-page revival's plan. The Radiance 100 sequence test had already ended, even if he did not release the Black Mass Cup. It was about time for the 2nd-page revival to take action. However, there was nothing unusual in the direction of the desolate arcanum behind the Radiance Sacred Hall. No one was fighting. Even the mountain river set bells of the Hui Yarrow had been put away a long time ago. An hour ago, 6 pages of whip could feel it clearly. The auras of the Freedom Federation's goddess Lian, Nana, and Li Shu passed over the Spirit Food Pavilion. This meant that the 3 of them had left. Previously, Lashing the 6th-page army changed their plans without permission and gave the 2nd-page revival a surprise. The 2nd-page revival could be said to have given the 6th-page whipping a surprise. Page 6 now has 3 choices. The first option was to stay in the Radiance Royal Capital for a period of time and observe the changes. Looking at the current situation, doing so would only be a waste of time. Moreover, his target was not Hui Yarrow. Hui Yarrow was just a touchstone. His goal was to help the organization search for the secrets of the Pagoda Canon. Over the past few years, he had lured the Page of Fate into recruiting him. He became the 6th page of the Pagoda Canon. He moved into one of the 8 pagodas of the Pagoda Canon. However, 6 pages Whip discovered that there was a layer of fog that could not be reached everywhere in the Pagoda Canon. Even though he had become the 6th page of the Tower Canon, he had not been able to truly explore the core secrets of the Tower Canon. When the 1st page Fate died, the 6th page Whip was waiting for the Pagoda Canon's reaction. But who would have thought that after the Fate page died, the Crimson page would appear? Moreover, Renaissance 2nd page seemed to know Scarlet 1st page. He resolutely completed every task Scarlet Page gave him and addressed Scarlet Page as Lord, just like a servant. This made 6 pages Whip immediately realize that something was wrong. Without his help this time, if the 2nd page revival clashed with the Radiance Federation, there was an 80% chance that it would perish. The 6th page Whip was to see if the so-called Crimson page would come to help the 2nd page Whip. At that time, Crimson Page 1 and Renaissance Page 2 would wage an all-out war against Radiance. Naturally, the secret could no longer be hidden. The second option was to whip 6 pages and return to the Pagoda Canon with his current identity. However, the 6th page Whip was unable to ascertain whether the 2nd page of Revival had encountered an accident or had returned to the Pagoda Canon due to his disappearance. If something happened to the 2nd page of Revival, he would return to the Pagoda Canon and give a reasonable explanation. He shouldn't be suspected. However, if the 2nd page of Revival had returned to the Pagoda Canon, then going back would be akin to walking into a trap. This caused the 6th page Whip to fall into a dilemma for a moment. As for the third option, it was to whip 6 pages Whip back to his original organization. He would return to his identity as Treasure Sword 4. However, if he did that, all the meticulous disguises he had put into the Pagoda Canon and everything he had done would be useless. Just as the 6th page Whip was preparing to head to the Pagoda Canon and take a gamble, 6 pages Whip's phone rang again. The 6th page Whip knew that his phone was ringing. It must be someone from the organization calling him. After picking up the phone, the 6th page Whip heard a gentle female voice on the other end of the phone. "Sure. You have been exposed in the Pagoda Canon. Come back immediately. This is the captain's decision." The 6th page Whip pondered for a long time. "CAI, how did the captain know that I have been exposed in the Pagoda Canon?" CAI's code name in the organization was Pagoda. She was in charge of internal communication for all the members. It was impossible for CAI to release fake information to trick him back to the organization. For CAI to say this, it must mean that the organization already had the relevant information. The woman on the other end of the phone saw that no one objected to her calling him Ashur this time. She immediately knew that it was the man on the other end of the phone. She also wanted to return to the organization. CAI said softly, "Ashur, I know you have been hiding in the Pagoda Canon for 40 years and you are unwilling to give up, but this is the news from the Judgment Team. Also, if you don't go out to carry out missions, you can return to your original code name Justice. You don't need to call yourself Treasure Sword 4 anymore. From today onwards, the 6th page canon has nothing to do with you." CAI's words made the man's face, which was full of justice, show a moment of surprise. CAI said that the news came from the Judgment Team. Judgment was also the code name of one of the members of the organization. This meant that he was not the only member of the organization hiding in the Pagoda Canon. The man thought about it again and again, but he couldn't figure it out. Who in the 8th page canon could be the person in the organization with the code name Justice? The man hadn't heard of the code name Justice for more than 40 years. Since he couldn't return to the Pagoda Canon, the man didn't insist. He stretched his body, revealing the perfect lines of his muscles. The eyes of the middle-aged women around him lit up. The man's furrowed brows silently relaxed. CAI, tell the captain that Justice is tired and wants to take a break. Report back in 2 months and tell the captain not to miss me. After speaking, the man stood up. He used this face of justice to throw a coquettish glance at the middle-aged women beside him. He left the spirit food pavilion without looking back. He blended into the crowd and disappeared. The woman named She Cai on the other end of the phone heard a tone that she hadn't heard for more than 40 years. The indifference in the tone made She Cai know that justice from 40 years ago had returned. It was just in time for the organization to make a big move in 2 months. When justice returned, he would be able to make it in time. At that moment, outside the Radiance continent, in the sky above the sea region not far away, at that moment, in the sky above the sea region not far away from the Radiance continent. At that moment, outside the Radiance continent, in the sky above the sea region not far away, the triangular position was like 3 sides facing each other. They were in a triangular position, as though 3 sides were facing each other. They didn't dare to make any noise in the Fey carriage at the side. Only a youth with short silver hair was frowning and observing the situation outside the Fey carriage. At the same time, he was trying to communicate with the contract in the depths of his mind that had been disconnected. 7017K. Chapter 1790. Nana had already dispelled her greater devil form. He looked at Lian Shun with a sharp gaze and said coldly, "Compassion Goddess, what did you mean when you were in the Radiance sect just now?" Hearing this, Lian Shun swung her golden-red fishtail. A huge golden-red wave appeared out of nowhere and crashed toward Nana. Nana pulled out a white bone blade that looked like it was carved out of ivory to block the golden-red stream of water that Lian deity had casually unleashed. "Nana, watch your tone when you talk to me. You are not a god yet. If you want to cross this step, your luck will only be good in 1 or 2 years. But if you're unlucky, it's not impossible to be stuck for 8 to 10 years. First, I have to teach you to be obedient. Mirror God and Foolish God can do whatever you want, but that doesn't mean I can. Secondly, as the leader of the Freedom Federation, you broke the rules. In less than a month, all the Federation with Class 5 Creation Masters will receive the news. When we go back and worship in the Temple of Liberty. Not just me, the others will also want an explanation from you. Thirdly, I'm interested in the dimensional gem you obtained from the swamp world. You rejected me at that time. I didn't snatch it from you because I gave you face. But now you're giving it to the Radiance Federation as compensation. Are you provoking me?" As she spoke, the god of pity turned to Li Shu and asked, "Li Shu, you are the leader of the team this time. After I came here, have I done anything to harm the Freedom Federation?" Li Shu did not know what to say. Everything Goddess Lian said made sense, but this method was completely out of line with Goddess Lian's style. However, there was still a huge gap in strength between him and Goddess Lian. Furthermore, a large portion of his creation master resources came from the pity goddess. Therefore, even though Li Shu knew that the goddess of pity was targeting Nana, and intended to let Nana shoulder all the blame, she did not care. Li Shu had no choice but to agree. "Compassion Goddess, you really haven't done anything to harm the Freedom Federation since you arrived. Instead, it was Nana who broke the rules of the duel." When Nana heard this, her charming face began to distort. She was so angry that she couldn't help but giggle. Nana had always understood what it meant to have a bigger fist. But Nana had never received such treatment. Everyone was a part of the Freedom Federation, even though everyone was secretly scheming behind the scenes. But on the surface, they could at least maintain a harmonious atmosphere. But now, Goddess Lian had directly shed all pretense of cordiality and used her strength to suppress him. Nana said coldly, "Of course I wouldn't dare to provoke the Goddess of Compassion. When we reach the Temple of Liberty, I will give everyone an explanation for what I've done." Nana came to Lu Oyu's side as she spoke. With Lu Oyu in tow, he teleported to the Freedom Federation. When Li Shu saw Nana leave, he thought that the matter had come to an end. He didn't expect the Compassion Goddess to suddenly fire at him. "Li Shu, because of your foolish plan, my beloved Chen Yu died in the duel with Hui Yao. Who was the one who told me that there would be no mistakes in this duel? If it wasn't for your suggestion to drag down a few of Her Holiness's disciples, this wouldn't have happened. Yang Ling, Cai Hua, Yu Changjian, and the people behind Han Qi are probably waiting for you to give them an explanation. You know better than me how much Du Miao values Han Qi and who has the best relationship with Du Miao. I heard that Du Miao and Han Qi's blood can merge. Do you know about this? At this moment, Li Shu finally understood what Nana had felt. Li Shu had no way of answering the compassion god's questions. This was because Li Shu was very clear that upon returning to the Freedom Federation, he was destined to face the censure of many people. At that time, they would have to pay a huge sum of resources. Li Shu cupped his hands at the goddess of mercy and said, "Mercy goddess, I'll take my leave first. When we return, I will give everyone an explanation." Han Qi's skills were inferior and he died in battle. I think Du Miao can understand. As he spoke, Li Shu steered the Fey vehicle and brought the 3 elders and 4 Liberal 100 sequence members toward the direction of the Freedom Federation. A smile finally appeared on Lianshen's face as she remained where she was. Lianshen happily swung her tail twice, then clapped her hands. Nana and Li Shu had been driven away by him. This way, it would be easier for him to return to the Radiance Federation and complete his plan. Of course, before that, he had to meet the Moon Empress and the Radiance Federation's elder. Lin Yuan was walking on the street with Liu Jie, preparing to return to the return from faraway mansion. After the Radiance 100 sequence test ended, everyone went back to recuperate. They agreed to meet at Lin Yuan's place for a meal 2 days later. Lin Yuan still remembered when he had checked Liu Jie's sacred source lifeform, the 10,000 Insect Emperor Core. The 10,000 Insect Emperor Core's second function, Emperor Recovery, was when the Insect Queen consumed a large amount of vitality. This vitality could be used to guide the Insect Queen's genetic model and awaken the Insect Queen's genes. It was applied to the ultimate weapon and descended in the form of the Insect Queen. After the Queen's form disappeared, the dimensional lifeform that fused with it would receive a trace of the Queen's blessing. The quality of this blessing would increase according to the Insect Queen's form and the length of time it was maintained. In order to assist the Insect Queen, Lin Yuan had used a sword skill, Forest Transformation Deer Strike. It had squeezed out all the vitality energy in the vitality imprint. Such a large amount of vitality energy was very difficult to replicate. With such a large amount of vitality energy, the Insect Queen's form was maintained for more than 1 minute and 30 seconds. Therefore, as an insect species lifeform, the Insect Queen's blessing should be very good. Lin Yuan asked Liu Jie, "Big brother Liu, how is the Insect Queen now? Did the 10,000 Insect Emperor Core's blessing increase the Insect Queen's combat ability? Did the 10,000 Insect Emperor Core's blessing increase the Insect Queen's combat ability?" Liu Jie and Lin Yuan were both wearing face masks. After all, they had just finished the Radiance 100 sequence test, and Liu Jie and Lin Yuan were very popular now. In such a situation, not wearing a face mask was very likely to cause traffic congestion. Lin Yuan was wearing a face mask, and his words sounded dull as usual. However, when he heard it in Liu Jie's heart, it made him sink into a wonderful feeling. Every time he was in danger, Lin Yuan was his salvation. He could always believe in Lin Yuan. After the Insect Queen released its fusion with the 10,000 Insect Emperor Core, it fell into a deep sleep. However, as the Insect Queen's contractor, Liu Jie could feel the changes in the Insect Queen's condition. The changes in the Insect Queen's condition made Liu Jie exceptionally happy. It could be said that the 10,000 Insect Emperor Core's blessing had increased Liu Jie's strength. It was not inferior to the previous time when the Insect Queen had obtained the Blade Queen Bee's poison and mutated. 7017 K. It could be said that among all the Insect Queen's skills, the Diamond Rank skill was the one that could increase the Insect Queen's strength the most. Due to the Freedom Federation's envoys, Liu Jie was prepared to choose an insect species Fey with extremely powerful single-target attacks before the Radiance 100 sequence competition. This would allow the Insect Queen to obtain gene fragments and turn them into the Insect Queen's Diamond Tier skill, which would increase its strength in battle. However, just as Liu Jie and Lin Yuan were discussing it, Lin Yuan rejected it. He knew very well that Liu Jie had never let the Insect Queen solve the problem of the diamond abilities. This was because Liu Jie had never had a suitable choice. Liu Jie only had one Fey, the insect queen. Once a decision was made, there was no way to regret it. Moreover, Liu Jie's insect queen was already sufficiently complete. Since he hadn't figured out which path he should take, he had to keep the diamond skill slot open. This battle had made Liu Jie realize his own shortcomings. When facing a powerful opponent, the insect swarm could only forcefully drag it out. Once the opponent had the ability to recover, the insect swarm would be helpless. Han Qi, who had fought against Lin Yuan in the general slaying battle, could be said to be a natural counter to Liu Jie with a treasured artifact. Therefore, Liu Jie planned to use diamond skills that could limit the healing effect of his opponent while maintaining his single-target attack power. With a clear direction, Liu Jie immediately had many excellent choices to choose from. Under the blessing of the source-type lifeform, the cocoon of evolution, Liu Jie's insect queen's 5 existing abilities had all transformed. If it was someone else, even if it was Zhong Ziyi, Jiyu Lang, or Jiao Feng, who had become friends with Liu Jie wouldn't say anything. However, in the face of Lin Yuan's question, Liu Jie definitely wouldn't hide anything. Lin Yuan, the insect queen's current combat ability has at least doubled compared to before. The blessing obtained by the insect queen is an increase in reproductive function. The cocoon of evolution that happened to be rooted in the reproductive cavity has also evolved because of this blessing. All 5 of the insect queen's abilities have greatly mutated or improved compared to before. It's just that the insect queen is still asleep, so I can't determine through actual combat how much better the produced insects are after the changes in the abilities. Lin Yuan's face immediately revealed a look of joy. He treated Liu Jie as a brother. Lin Yuan was very happy that Liu Jie's insect queen could obtain such a great opportunity. It had to be known that the myriad insect emperor core could only bless each insect-type lifeform once. The next time the insect queen combined with the sacred source lifeform, the myriad insect emperor core, it would no longer receive the blessing. Lin Yuan was very afraid that the blessing this time would not hit the nail on the head. For example, the insect queen was a fairy source-type lifeform that relied on summoning insect swarms to fight. If the blessing strengthened the insect queen's body, it could be said to be exceptionally useless to the insect queen. Firstly, the insect queen was in charge of producing insect units in battle and couldn't go forward for close combat. Fairy source-type lifeforms' bodies were fragile. Even if it was enhanced, it could not compare to the physique of power offense-type phase of the same grade. Secondly, the insect queen hid among the insect swarms and was protected by layers of insect swarms. The insect cancer phase that Liu Jie summoned would also protect the insect queen. For example, the demonic flower gas shield bug that had constantly landed on Lin Yuan during the team battle. The insect queen was protected by layers of defense, and if the enemy could break through its defenses, no matter how strong the insect queen's physique was, it would still be killed by the enemy. Big brother Liu, congratulations. Looking at the heartfelt smile on Lin Yuan's face, Liu Jie felt as though the sun had risen. His improvement this time was still entirely due to Lin Yuan's help. Without Lin Yuan, Liu Jie didn't think that he would have the qualifications to metamorphose. If Lin Yuan hadn't suddenly awakened during the battle with the phaseless beast, even if he had ultimately won against the Freedom Federation, because of the insect queen's declining reproductive functions and the loss of vitality, he was destined to become a cripple. In Liu Jie's heart, Lin Yuan was his salvation. He was willing to transform into a shield and a sword to protect the light. 7017K. Chapter 1792. At that moment, Lin Yuan and Liu Jie had walked all the way to the suburbs. There was no one else around this area. After walking for a while, they arrived at the return from faraway manor. Lin Yuan said to Liu Jie, "Brother Liu, why don't you summon the insect queen for me to see?" Upon hearing this, Liu Jie immediately summoned the insect queen from its slumber. Lin Yuan saw that the sleeping insect queen had an unusually peaceful expression on its face. There was a blissful smile on his face. It was as if the slumbering insect queen was having a sweet dream due to its own improvement. He immediately used Morbius True Data to check on the insect queen. Fey name, insect queen, spirit species, insect Fey grade, diamond, 10/10, Fey type, source spiritual, Fey quality, Fantasy V-Skills Sad Smiley Execution Blade Insect. The insect's body has 8 hook-shaped insect limbs. It has lost its sense of taste, smell, and oral cavity. The insect's legs have extremely strong perception, and the tip of the hook-shaped insect limbs has a mouthpiece connected to the internal organs. After piercing into the target's body, the mouthpiece protrudes out and can shatter the target's sturdy body. Armor-shaking ladybug opens up its back to provide a strong defense when attacked. At the same time, its back will violently vibrate, reflecting physical attacks. When attacked by elemental energy, the vibrating back can avoid a certain amount of elemental damage. Plasma current lightning insect. The insect's body spits out a large amount of plasma that converges into a plasma current. The plasma current has a powerful paralyzing effect and will cause continuous electrical damage to the target. Electromagnetic chrysalis. In the chrysalis state, it can increase the speed of plasma gathering and quickly shoot out the gathered plasma. In the chrysalis state, it can use the plasma to trigger a magnetic field and control long-distance targets. Silent nocturnal moth. When it flaps its wings, it can create a huge gust of wind to attack or control its target. Special scales grow on its wings, allowing it to perfectly blend into the night. It can also increase its concealment ability during the day. Exclusive skill Sad Smiley Explosion Recovery. The insect queen will choose a portion of the insects it produces to explode. During the explosion, the insect queen can target a target based on the insect's body quality. After the explosion, the insect queen will recover a portion of the insect's protein and spiritual energy. Insect swarm frenzy. When the insect swarm enters a frenzy state, their speed and attack power greatly increase. Under the frenzy state, the insect swarm gains a bloodthirsty effect and can obtain a certain amount of life force from the target's blood. After probing, Lin Yuan revealed a surprised expression and did not speak for a long time. The insect queen's condition was exactly as Liu Jie had described. In terms of skills, they had all been upgraded. However, after seeing the insect queen's true data, Lin Yuan felt that using the word upgrade to describe the insect queen was not very accurate. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the changes in the insect queen's abilities could be described as innovation. The insect queen's normal skill was the flesh-mincing blade insect. At that time, the flesh-mincing blade insect could only cut the target's flesh with its 6 blade-like limbs. Now, the execution blade insect had transformed into a combat weapon that was compatible with the insect queen. By degrading its sense of taste, smell, and oral cavity, the insect queen could produce fewer organs when it produced the execution blade insects. It also saved a lot of protein. Originally, the flesh-mincing blade insect only had 6 legs. Now that it had 8 legs, it not only increased the combat efficiency. The hook-shaped legs could effectively fix the execution blade insect on the target's body. When the insect legs moved, it was equivalent to cutting off a piece of flesh along with the skin. The damage caused would undoubtedly be much greater than before. In addition, the execution blade insect's mouthparts hidden in the insect legs could cut off the target's bones. While grinding the flesh, it could shatter the bones and cause damage to the target's internal organs. This allowed the execution blade insect to leave the flesh-mincing blade insect far behind in terms of individual strength. There was no need for the insect queen to use other abilities. Just by producing the execution blade insects, the insect swarm's strength would be greatly improved. Originally, the insect queen's elite ability was the armor evasion ladybug, but now, it was the armor tremor ladybug. Although there was only a one-word difference in the name, its defensive ability was greatly enhanced. The armor tremor ladybug was a defense-type phase head ability. The armor tremor ladybug didn't just obtain this defensive ability when fighting against phase that attacked with the body. When fighting against phase that attacked with the element, the armor tremor ladybug could also use the armor to effectively block part of the attack. In the past, the armor evasion ladybug had been very passive and weak when facing phase that attacked with the element. The armor evasion ladybug's evolution allowed the insect swarm's defense to be enhanced. The silver ability was originally the plasma caterpillar, but it was now the plasma current electric worm. There was no change in the ability, but the amount of plasma released had increased. Originally, the plasma caterpillar would spit out balls of plasma. Now, The plasma current electric worm could spit out a terrifying amount of plasma like a stream. It might not have been tested, but at least one plasma current electric worm should be able to match 5 or more plasma caterpillars. The insect queen's gold ability was originally the lightning-gathering moth. Now, it was the electromagnetic chrysalis moth. The lightning-gathering moth was originally used with the plasma caterpillar. By gathering the plasma spat out by the plasma caterpillar, it could deal high-intensity electric damage. It was also one of the insect swarm's few elemental attacks. Now that the electromagnetic chrysalis was in the chrysalis state, it could quickly gather plasma, and the plasma cannon's firing speed had increased. At the same time, in the chrysalis state, it could also consume plasma and manipulate the magnetic field to control the opponent. Magnetism was a variant of the electric attribute. The control ability of such a niche attribute was often stronger than the control of the general attribute, and it was often difficult to control. An electromagnetic chrysalis in the chrysalis state might not have a strong ability to manipulate the magnetic field. However, the insect queen was fully capable of producing a large number of electromagnetic chrysalis to control the target. Anyway, the magnetic field control ability could be stacked. After the transformation, the plasma current electric worm could spit out a huge amount of plasma, which was enough to support the electromagnetic chrysalis consumption. It made the already extraordinary linkage even more powerful. As for the platinum ability, it had changed from the original hurricane owlet moth to the silent night moth, which mainly enhanced the concealment ability. It just so happened that Liu Jie liked to use the original hurricane owlet moth as a scouting fay in battles. By relying on the hurricane owlet moth's high-speed flight, he could seize the initiative in field battles. But now, be it day or night, the silent night moth's concealment ability was greatly enhanced. As before, it could complete the scouting mission better. He no longer had to worry about being discovered by the enemy during the scouting process. Chapter 1793. When other fays were upgraded, they would only be enhanced in one aspect, and there wouldn't be much change. Just like Genius and Chimey, after their bloodline metamorphosis, their combat enhancement was not as great as the Insect Queen's enhancement. The Insect Queen's improvement wasn't just limited to its combat capabilities. The Insect Queen had received an all-around improvement. Attack, defense, support, control, and investigation all in one. At that moment, Lin Yuan finally understood why a source-type lifeform like the Insect Queen would occupy all of a person's spiritual energy. The spirit chi professionals who had contracted the Insect Queen would not be able to contract other fays. After a freak combination of mutations and upgrades, the Insect Queen, a source-type lifeform, had truly evolved. He showed his ferocious side. At the same time, Lin Yuan gradually became clear about what he had been guessing. During the evolution process, fays might not seem to have anything to rely on, but there were traces to be found. For example, after the Insect Queen evolved, the original flesh-mincing blade insect could only shred the flesh of the target when attacking. But he couldn't deal with the bones. However, after he evolved into an execution blade insect, he was able to make up for his shortcomings in the treatment of his bones. The hurricane owlet moths were mostly used for reconnaissance rather than combat. Therefore, when it transformed into the silent night moth, it focused on strengthening its concealment abilities. From this, Lin Yuan knew that he could use special means to guide the phase abilities in which direction they would develop. He planned to experiment and see if the phase that he constantly guided could produce the abilities that he wanted. Lin Yuan looked up at Liu Jie and said, "That's right. Brother Liu, if your Insect Queen were to fight against Chen Yu now, it would definitely be able to delay him for more than twice the time." Although Liu Jie's Insect Queen had improved in all aspects, it was still not enough to fight someone of the younger generation like Chen Yu, who was qualified to be chosen as a freelancer. It was still very difficult. However, being able to delay Chen Yu by more than double the time was already very impressive. If he waited for the Insect Queen to arrive, it would have the strength of a suzerain level 10 Myth 2 pinnacle before going against Chen Yu. It would be very difficult for Chen Yu to deal with the Insect Queen without using his 8-star sacred source lifeform, Hidden Sea Muse. After all, A pinnacle suzerain myth 2 insect queen could produce phase of the same grade as itself by consuming a large amount of spirit chi and insect protein. Although Liu Jie was happy that his strength had improved, he had never been arrogant. He did not feel satisfied with his strength. Even with such a huge improvement, there was still a huge gap between him and Lin Yuan. It could be said that Liu Jie had been trying his best to catch up with Lin Yuan's footsteps. He hoped that Lin would not fall too much. Otherwise, his sword or shield would lose its meaning. Lin Yuan, you said that you are going to train in a few days. Bring me along this time. 3 of the insect-type carcinoma phase controlled by the insect queen died in the battle. I will let the insect queen fill up the empty spots of these insect-type carcinoma phase in the next few days. Then, let those insect-type carcinoma phase that are extremely helpful to the insect swarm fuse with the cocoon demon embryos and transform into demons. Demon insect Lin demon Liu insect queen insect. As an insect-type carcinoma fae, the Blade Queen Bee had become a 4-winged demon. It had gained sentience and could comprehend willpower runes on its own. Demon was, and would had demon. Instead demon, unable to advance into a fantasy breed. Liu Jie had been thinking about which insect species carcinoma phase he should let combine with the source-type demon embryo. There were only a few cocoon demon embryos. Every time he used one, there would be one less. As the insect queen's spiritual energy grew, the number of insect-type carcinoma phase it could control would gradually increase. This left Liu Jie with 2 options. The first option was for Liu Jie to combine those extremely harmful insect species carcinoma phase with the cocoon demon embryos. These insect-type carcinoma phase would be the final weapon. The other option was for Liu Jie to enhance the insect species carcinoma phase that could assist the insect queen in battle, using himself as the ultimate weapon. The insect queen's evolution and metamorphosis made Liu Jie decide on his second choice. Only one's own strength was the foundation of everything. Furthermore, a diamond legend insect-type carcinoma fae was already capable of causing a huge disaster. Under some special circumstances, such as the water area created by Long Dao and Qian Yu, it was extremely dangerous. With the help of the Diamond X legend nether floating hatworm, Liu Jie could turn the entire body of water into a sticky gelatinous substance. The nether floating hatworm's strength would increase again, but there wouldn't be much change in its nature. After making his choice, Liu Jie planned to enter seclusion for a few days. Afterward, Liu Jie just needed to wait for the insect-type carcinoma fae to transform into a demon and evolve into a fantasy breed. Therefore, in the following period of time, Liu Jie wanted to fulfill his responsibility as a retainer. During his previous conversation with Lin Yuan, Liu Jie knew of Lin Yuan's plans for the Argowen continent. Even though the Argowen continent didn't have any Class 5 creation masters, the Divine Wood Federation, the Iron Hammer Federation, and the Deep Brahmin Federation had been established for hundreds of years. Even though the 3 federations had been fighting openly and covertly for hundreds of years, it had never been broken. This was enough to show that the 3 federations had formed a certain tacit understanding. Or rather, it was a delicate balance. Lin Yuan was an outsider, and he was destined to be targeted by the 3 federations. Liu Jie had previously trained with Lin Yuan in the Divine Wood Federation. It could be said that the Divine Wood Federation was filled with danger, be it inside or outside the city. Lin Yuan's strength was enough to deal with this problem. Liu Jie also wanted to follow by Lin Yuan's side and do his part. When Lin Yuan heard Liu Jie's words, he smiled brightly and said, "Big brother Liu, I was just about to tell you. In a few days, we will set off for the Divine Wood Federation together. In a few days, we will set off for the Divine Wood Federation together," Han Li said. Lin Yuan's previous attitude toward the Argowen continent was like boiling a frog in warm water. Now that he knew that the item to complete Morbius came from a dimensional world. Therefore, he simply boiled the Argowen continent and strived to solve all the problems in the Argowen continent within half a year. Thus, they decided to use a fierce fire to cook the continent. They strived to solve all the problems on the continent within half a year. The Radiant's 100 sequence assessment and the team battle had only taken less than 4 days. While Lin Yuan was talking with Liu Jie, the two of them had already returned to the Return from Faraway Mansion. Lin Yuan had only left the Return from Faraway Mansion for 4 days. However, before Lin Yuan and Liu Jie returned home, their mentality had already changed drastically. 7017K. Chapter 1794. When they left, Lin Yuan and Liu Jie were determined to face any battle. But they had never been under such pressure and responsibility. When the glory of the Federation was carried on the shoulders of a few people, it would accelerate the growth of these few people. After returning home, Lin Yuan was completely relaxed and stretched his back. The first thing he planned to do was to sort out the spoils of war he had obtained from the battle. Lin Yuan's spoils of war were extremely plentiful. Han Qi alone had provided him with a total of 3 artifacts, one of which was a Class 5 artifact. Apart from that, there were the bodies of dead devils and fays. There was also a large accumulation of resources in Han Qi's spatial box. Yang Ling, Cai Hua, and Yu Changjian's wealth had been collected by Lu Oyu when the Great Devil had devoured them. Lin Yuan had originally planned to share these resources with his other teammates. But because Lin Yuan had turned the situation around, he had been the main attacker in the later stages. Therefore, Zhong Ziyi, Gao Feng, Liu Yifan, and the others had insisted on not taking these resources. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the portion of the 3 sacred source lifeforms that Lu Oyu had yet to digest had great research value. At the same time, this portion was very suitable to be made into artifacts. In fact, the one who had contributed the most resources to Lin Yuan was definitely Qian Yu, who was the 3rd Freedom Envoy. Through Lin Yuan's investigation, Qian Yu's spatial box had much more items than the others. Qian Yu's Class 8 Sacred Source lifeform and Hidden Sea Muse's body. This was an unimaginable amount of wealth. It was definitely not an easy task to nurture a Sacred Source lifeform to Class 8. Lin Yuan had already confirmed that the additional power in his body after fusing with Bai Lan was the power of the mermaid bloodline. Otherwise, this power would not have been able to affect Qian Yu, who had fused with Hidden Sea Muse. Although the bloodline power in Hidden Sea Muse's body was much lower than the bloodline power in Bai Lan and Lin Yuan's body after fusing. However, Lin Yuan and Hidden Sea Muse's bloodline came from the same source. During the artifact forging process, if there was a higher grade bloodline, it could completely enhance the bloodline in the artifact. In other words, when Di Wanmi, a Class 5 creation master, took the Hidden Sea Muse's body and refined it into an artifact, he could use his bloodline to enhance the mermaid bloodline in the artifact. This way, Lin Yuan would be able to obtain a treasure that was compatible with him. Previously, Lin Yuan had only used a spatial artifact, which he had used for storage. If he could obtain an 8-star artifact that was compatible with his bloodline, his strength would definitely have a qualitative leap. Of course, what Lin Yuan was most looking forward to was letting Morbius absorb that green crystal. Lin Yuan then chose a spirit-locked Fey to bind and unlock its abilities, apart from its normal abilities. However, before Lin Yuan could return to his room, Xue Shuo jumped from his hair and landed on the ground. Then, he transformed into his human form. After Xue Shuo transformed into his human form, he saw Blue Lotus, White Phoenix, and the Mother of Bloodbath. A beautiful woman wearing a purple fur coat walked out of the house. The sky-favored spirit was capable of perfectly concealing its aura. As long as it did not reveal its aura, no one would be able to sense it. However, Lin Yuan was still able to confirm the woman's identity immediately. This beautiful woman in a purple fur coat must be the Grand Master of the Blessed Heavens Mansion that Xue Shuo had mentioned, Zi Qing. A few of them wanted to congratulate Lin Yuan, especially the beautiful woman in the purple fur coat. Her eyes were filled with gratitude toward Lin Yuan. As a Fey, the favored spirit valued friendship and promises the most. Putting aside the possibility of Lin Yuan reviving Jade Gui, just the fact that he had saved the Mother of Bloodbath several times was enough for Zi Qing to regard him as a benefactor. Before Blue Lotus, White Phoenix, and the Mother of Bloodbath could congratulate Lin Yuan, he did not wait for Zi Qing to thank Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan walked over with a serious expression. You must be Senior Zi Qing. I heard from Uncle Blood that you came to the land of lava of the Radiance sect and took away most of Auntie Jade Gui's remnant soul. Now that you're here, why don't you release these broken souls? I want to see if I can revive Aunt Yu Gui's soul. If you have enough broken souls, you should be able to carry out a simple soul communication with Aunt Yu Gui. Originally, Xue Shuo, Zi Qing, Lan Lian, and Bai Feng were very grateful to Lin Yuan. Now, Lin Yuan's actions let the four of them know. Lin Yuan really treated this matter as an important matter. Now should be the time to enjoy the cheers and praise. When Lin Yuan saw his arrival, the first thing he thought of was to revive Jade Gui's soul. This made the gratitude they had for Lin Yuan multiply. The mother of Bloodbath looked at Lin Yuan with clear eyes. In the end, it could not hold it in anymore. It stepped forward and gave Lin Yuan a hug. Then, it whispered in Lin Yuan's ear. Lin Yuan, thank you. When Lin Yuan heard that, he only thought that the mother of Bloodbath was excited because it was about to have a chance to communicate with its mother's soul. Lin Yuan said, "You're my path protector. Why are you so polite with me?" While speaking, Lin Yuan summoned the soul remembrance whale. The mother of Bloodbath let go of Lin Yuan's embrace and stood at the side. Its gaze toward Lin Yuan became gentler and a little ashamed at the same time. As Lin Yuan's path protector, the number of times Lin Yuan had saved it was definitely more than the number of times it had saved Lin Yuan. Zi Qing did not know the mother of Bloodbath's feelings for Lin Yuan. However, Blue Lotus, White Phoenix, and Xue Shuo, who had been with Lin Yuan for a long time, could see it. The three of them had been completely shocked by Lin Yuan's words. No matter how they looked at it, the mother of Bloodbath's hug just now could not have been out of politeness. Could this be the legendary straight man? A straight man who was handsome could also be destined to be alone for life. The soul remembrance whale swam around Lin Yuan intimately. Xue Shuo had already seen the mysteries of the soul remembrance whale. However, it was the first time Blue Lotus, White Phoenix, and Zi Qing had seen such a legendary creature. The three of them could not see the soul remembrance whale, but they could feel that there was a creature beside Lin Yuan that was interacting with him intimately. Zi Qing took a deep breath and took out the orange-red silk handkerchief that looked like it was cut from the sunset. After taking out this silk handkerchief, Zi Qing was clearly looking forward to Jade Gui's soul being revived so that she could communicate with Jade Gui like before. However, Zi Qing had the guts to barge into the pagoda cannon's base and risk her life to kill the Page of Destiny. At this moment, she was timid. Although Lin Yuan had just given everyone a reassurance, Zi Qing was still very afraid. In the end, she would receive news that Jade Gui's soul could not be revived. 7017K. Chapter 1795. When faced with the question of whether or not the person closest to him could be revived, no matter how determined and courageous a person was, they would not be able to face it calmly. This was probably what people meant by being overly concerned. If Zi Qing didn't know about it, the Jade Gui might come back to life. Zi Qing, who had not walked out of her sorrow for many years, was able to slowly fade her scars and turn most of her sorrow into longing. Occasionally, he would look at this silk handkerchief, which contained a large number of remnant souls of the Jade Pendant, and miss the Jade Pendant. However, Zi Qing's heart was once again filled with hope. While she was happy, she was also extremely afraid. Zi Qing was afraid that her expectations would be dashed and she would lose the Jade Gui again. This was her good sister who had accompanied her for thousands of years. Being disappointed again was not something that Zi Qing could not accept the most. At most, it would just be another round of pain. What Zi Qing couldn't accept the most was that Yu Gui's broken soul would vanish after failing. In that case, he would truly lose the last shred of bond between him and the Jade Gui. Lin Yuan could see Zi Qing's internal struggle. Lin Yuan was not in a hurry to take the orange handkerchief from Zi Qing. Lin Yuan learned from his master, the Moon Empress, that Yu Gui used to be the second hall master of the heaven-blessed mansion. He had a deep relationship with Zi Qing. The resurrection Jade Gui was not only related to the mother of Bloodbath and Xue Shuo. It was also related to Zi Qing and the other heavenly chosen spirits of the heaven-blessed dojo. After the confrontation with the Freedom Federation's envoys, Lin Yuan's attitude had changed. It also made him more mature. Although his master, the Moon Empress, had never told him about it. However, he knew very well that he could treat the mother of Bloodbath and Xue Shuo as one of their own. However, facing Lan Lian, Bai Feng, and Zi Qing was equivalent to negotiating with the Blessed Dojo. Invisibly, Lin Yuan was representing Hui Yao. Xue Shuo and the mother of Bloodbath had seen how the soul whale collected souls with their own eyes. The mother of Bloodbath and Xue Shuo had both sensed the remnant soul of the jade gui that the soul whale had collected in the land of lava. Therefore, compared to Zi Qing, the two of them were much more relaxed. The mother of Bloodbath, which had been with Lin Yuan for a long time, understood his character better. If it was something he could not do, he would never agree to it so easily. Xue Shuo said to Zi Qing, "Big Sister Ziqing, I have personally witnessed Lin Yuan's abilities. Back then, Lin Yuan was able to collect all of the jade gui's remnant souls in the entire lava field. Now, I can face the remnant soul in the silk handkerchief as well. Furthermore, even if something goes wrong and fails in the end, these remnant souls will not disappear." Hearing Xue Shuo's words, Zi Qing took a deep breath. Then, she took a step forward and handed the orange silk handkerchief to Lin Yuan with both hands. "Thank you very much. Regardless of whether this matter succeeds or not, just because you saved Xue Qing, you are already the benefactor of our heavens-blessed mansion." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan did not respond. After receiving the tangerine red silk handkerchief, Lin Yuan was not in a hurry to let the thought soul whale use its soul not ability. Instead, he told the soul remembrance whale to release the remnant soul of the jade gui that it had collected earlier. He said in a serious tone, "I won't joke around with Aunt Jade Gui's soul. Actually, the reason why I need more of Aunt Yu Gui's soul isn't just to revive her. It's also so that after Aunt Yu Gui's soul is revived, she can obtain more memories from her previous life. If it wasn't for the sake of recovering her memories, as long as I obtain a bit of Aunt Yu Gui's remnant soul and nourish it, it can grow into a complete soul." Lin Yuan's words were equivalent to taking the initiative to expose his trump card to Zi Qing. Lin Yuan's words shocked everyone present. This included the mother of Bloodbath and Xue Shuo. Back then, Lin Yuan had mentioned the soul remembrance whale's ability to the mother of Bloodbath and Xue Shuo. However, neither of them had expected the soul remembrance whale's ability to be so heaven-defying. As long as it obtained a trace of remnant soul and nourished it, it could revive the remnant soul. It had to be known that Yu Gui had been dead for many years. If he could search for her soul after so many years, wouldn't that mean that Lin Yuan had the ability to revive the dead? Even experts who had embarked on the path to ascension did not deserve such an ability. Lin Yuan had taken the initiative to expose his ability to give Zi Qing, Blue Lotus, and White Phoenix a reassurance. Secondly, the fact that the Pagoda Canon and the Freedom Federation had a deal was already set in stone. The Heaven-Blessed Dojo had always been neutral, and Lin Yuan wanted to win over a powerful ally like the Heaven-Blessed Dojo for the Radiance Federation. Thirdly, everyone present was worthy of Lin Yuan's trust. After Lin Yuan's words, Zi Qing and the others were momentarily shocked, and their faces were filled with pleasant surprise. Because Lin Yuan had already confirmed that Yu Gui's soul could be revived. Now, there was even a pleasant surprise. If it really was as Lin Yuan said, and Yu Gui absorbed the remnant soul in the silk handkerchief and obtained its memories, then wouldn't he be able to communicate with Yu Gui in a real sense? Seeing that Zi Qing and the others were relieved, Lin Yuan did not take the initiative to communicate with Zi Qing again. Instead, he tossed the silk handkerchief in his hand to the soul remembrance whale. He let the soul remembrance whale use its soul binding skill on the silk handkerchief. When the soul remembrance whale used its soul binding skill, it would absorb the soul into its body. When Yu Gui had just died in the land of lava, Zi Qing had rushed to Hui Yarrow, saved Xue Shuo, and taken away Yu Gui's remnant soul. Through the strength of his soul, he could be sure. Jade Gui was definitely a living being who had stepped into the eternal realm, and had only been a step away from the eternal realm. Any living being that achieved eternal eternity would have their own soul color. A large number of colored souls were sucked into the soul remembrance whale. Zi Qing, Xue Shuo, and the others still couldn't see the remembrance soul whale. However, he could see that Jade Gui's soul was flowing and gathering inside an unknown creature. Lin Yuan found that these souls that were constantly gathering were undergoing a delicate reorganization and combination. The recombination and fusion of souls was one of the most secretive existences in life. The others didn't even have the chance to investigate. If it wasn't for the fact that Yu Gui's soul had reached the level of eternity, even if Lin Yuan had the psychic soul whale, he would not have the opportunity to see the magnificent scene of soul recombination created by life. At that moment, Lin Yuan deeply felt the reverence for life. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan fell into a wonderful comprehension. A willpower rune that was constantly shattering and reassembling like a soul appeared in his spiritual spatial zone. Zi Qing, Lan Lian, Bai Feng, and Xue Shuo did not find it strange that Lin Yuan had suddenly entered an epiphany. Even if the four of them had reached such a high level of strength, they still felt enlightened when they saw the soul recombination. It couldn't be more normal for Lin Yuan to be able to comprehend something from it and condense a willpower rune. Lin Yuan was a prodigy of Hui Yarrow and the Moon Empress disciple. His comprehension ability must be astonishing. However, the mother of Bloodbath felt that all of this was abnormal. 7017K. Chapter 1796. The mother of Bloodbath had always been by Lin Yuan's side as his path protector. He could not remember how many willpower runes he had comprehended. In the mother of Bloodbath's opinion, comprehending a willpower rune was easier than drinking water for others. Right at this moment, a neigh suddenly sounded. The moment this cry rang out, a vast amount of soul energy surged out. If it wasn't for Zi Qing using her aura to envelop the entire space, she wouldn't have been able to survive. If this vast soul energy was released, it would even shake up half of the imperial city. Spiritual creatures that had reached the eternal realm would normally try their best to restrain their auras. However, the current Yu Gui clearly didn't have the ability to conceal the aura of his soul. He was certain of that hiss just now. The voice came from the soul of the Jade Gui. This hissing sound was obviously made by an arachnid fae. However, it was completely different from ordinary Arashan fays. There was no viciousness or ruthlessness in this cry. Instead, there was a sense of gentleness. Just like how the sun shines on all things. Hearing this sound, it came from the spider's soul. Xue Shuo, Zi Qing, and Lan Lian, who had been suppressing their emotions, revealed bright smiles at the same time. Xue Shuo's eyes were gold and red. Zi Qing's deep purple eyes were like the starry sky. Lan Lian's blue eyes seemed to encompass the entire world. At the same time, hot, crystal-clear tears fell from her eyes. Even Bai Feng, who had always been carefree, had tears in her eyes, and her lips were trembling slightly. When a heavenly favored spirit reached the eternal realm, its soul would be complete and it would be at its peak. If his soul was exposed outside his body, it would emit a soul sound. That spider cry just now was none other than Yu Gui's soul voice. At this moment, the remembrance soul whale released the soul that it had already condensed in its body through the bone horn on its forehead. A woman who looked similar to the mother of Bloodbath but had a completely different style appeared in the open space beside Lin Yuan as a soul. The mother of Bloodbath's eyes were cold, and so was its expression. However, when this woman smiled, she was able to heal one's heart. She was so gentle that it seemed as if water would drip out of her. At that moment, the woman's eyes were fixed on the mother of Bloodbath. He opened his arms toward the mother of Bloodbath. Before this woman, who was a soul manifestation, could take the initiative to step forward, the mother of Bloodbath took a step forward. He threw himself into the woman's arms. Ever since it could remember, the mother of Bloodbath, which had been struggling to survive in the jungle alone, had indeed hated its parents for abandoning it. It was especially so when they were attacked by natural enemies, starved, or looking at other fays when they were reunited with their family. But slowly, this feeling of resentment disappeared. This was because the mother of Bloodbath did not even know who to blame. For the mother of Bloodbath to have such a deep friendship with Endless Summer, it was enough to show that the mother of Bloodbath valued friendship. However, when the mother of Bloodbath found out about its origins and met Xue Shuo, all the misunderstandings were resolved. It could be said that the mother of Bloodbath was always looking forward to its mother's resurrection. Bloodline and nature made the mother of Bloodbath feel an indescribable warmth that it had never felt before from this woman who resembled itself. At this moment, Xue Shuo also came forward. It opened its arms and hugged the mother of Bloodbath and the woman's soul projection into its embrace. After a long time, this long-separated family of three finally loosened their embrace. He let go of the jade gui in his arms and bowed deeply to Lin Yuan. His tone was solemn and grateful. "Thank you for giving me the opportunity to see my daughter, husband, and companions." After thanking Lin Yuan solemnly, the jade gui turned around and looked at Zi Qing. He walked in front of Zi Qing and said softly, "Big sister, long time no see." The return from faraway manner was full of warmth. At first, Chu Ci had wanted to go out to welcome Lin Yuan, but she was held back by Wen Yu. The smart Chu Ci quickly understood why Wen Yu was holding her back. However, the things that needed to be dealt with had been dealt with. Chu Ci threw herself into Lin Yuan's arms just like the mother of Bloodbath had thrown herself into the jade gui's arms. Chu Ci did not say anything and just gently hugged Lin Yuan's neck. Whether it was the battle with Han Qi on the general execution platform or the five-person team battle, Chu Ci had always been in a state of worry. To ordinary Star Web viewers, what they saw was a Radiance prodigy risking his life to protect Radiance's glory. In Chu Ci's opinion, this duel was her brother fighting to the death. Chu Ci had no impression of her parents. Chu Ci and Lin Yuan had grown up relying on each other. With Lin Yuan as her brother, Chu Ci had not been envious of her classmates who had parents. "You have parents, and I have a brother. The love and care I received was no less than the love and care you received." Lin Yuan was Chu Ci's everything. Even after becoming Kang Yu's disciple, Lin Yuan's position in Chu Ci's heart had not changed. Thus, the moment she realized that Lin Yuan might die in the battle, Chu Ci became anxious. However, Chu Ci had no other way. It could be said that Chu Ci had never been so eager to improve her strength as she was now. Fortunately, Lin Yuan was fine. It was not until the moment she hugged Lin Yuan that the original worry in Chu Ci's heart faded. Wen Yu stood at the entrance of the mansion, smiling as she looked at Lin Yuan, who was hugged by Chu Ci's neck. It had been so long, and the Celestial Council should convene again. After the Radiance 100 sequence selection, Lin Yuan finally had time to vigorously develop Sky City. The Radiance Sacred Hall was currently closed. On normal days, the Radiance Sacred Hall was basically not open to the public. Only the current Radiance 100 sequence members, Radiance Envoys, Radiance Knights, and Her Holiness could freely enter and exit. As the Radiance 100 sequence selection had just been held, the 100 sequence members had just left the Radiance Sacred Hall. Thus, there should not be a single person inside the Radiance Sacred Hall at this time. However, the Moon Empress and an old man in a wheelchair were in the Radiance Sacred Hall. It was as though they were waiting for someone to arrive. At that moment, ripples appeared in the space in front of the Moon Empress and the old man. Golden red waves rippled out from the spatial ripples. A woman with a golden red fishtail and a veil covering her body appeared in front of the Moon Empress and the old man. The Moon Empress looked at the Pity Goddess and did not speak. The Pity Goddess had never thought of putting on airs in front of the Moon Empress. This was because the Pity Goddess had been constantly squeezing NA's benefits in order to express goodwill to Radiance. The Moon Empress and the old man had been waiting here because the Pity Goddess had sent a message to the Moon Empress and the old man's life providences. This was a method that could only be mastered by those who had embarked on the path to heaven. It was also one of the most secretive methods of transmitting messages. Looking at the Moon Empress and the old man in front of her, the Pity Goddess's expression became serious. 7017K. Chapter 1797. Lian Shen appeared for a long time. She looked at the elder on the wheelchair beside the Moon Empress and didn't say a single word. Lian Shen was currently weighing the pros and cons in her mind. He was weighing what kind of attitude he should use to communicate with the Moon Empress, or rather, Hui Yao. After all, the Goddess of Compassion was a majesty of the Freedom Federation. Given the status of the Compassion Goddess, she should not have appeared in the Radiance Sacred Hall to communicate with the enemies of the Freedom Federation. However, Lian Shun had no choice but to make this trip. Now that Qian Yu was dead, Goddess Lian could only pin her hopes on Lin Yuan. In fact, if Lin Yuan had not displayed a mermaid bloodline that far surpassed Qian Yu's, Lu Oyu would not have needed to summon Nana at all. Then, Lian Shun would act and protect Qian Yu. Goddess Lian had her own reasons for wanting to improve her strength. It was because of this reason that the Goddess of Mercy appeared here. The matter of him using his mermaid bloodline to tread on the path to heaven should be known by all the powerful beings of the origin world. However, he needed to obtain the love of the Imperial Mermaid in order to improve his strength again. This matter had always been a secret of the Lian god. This secret was known to the second page of the Revival Pagoda canon, the Mirror God, and the Foolish God. No matter what Goddess Lian said, she couldn't let Hui Yarrow know about this. After all, Lin Yuan was in the Radiance. If the Radiance faction found out and one of its majesties was afraid of him, they might attack him through Lin Yuan's strength. Then he would have no place to cry. Previously, Lian Shun had dug 3 feet into the ground in order to find a creature with mermaid bloodline. After searching for several years, he finally found Qian Yu after one of them died. Therefore, the Compassion Goddess was probably more worried about Lin Yuan's safety than the Radiance faction. The Moon Empress had always been one of the most hated existences of the Mercy Goddess. No matter what the reason was, he had poured a lot of resources and painstakingly nurtured a highness who had almost awakened the mermaid royal bloodline. However, this person had been killed by the Moon Empress when he had come to Radiance to carry out a mission. If not for the fact that the Goddess of Compassion had descended upon the Radiance Sacred Hall to protect Qian Yu, the Lian deity would definitely make a move against the Moon Empress and fight to the death with her. But now, Lian Shun no longer had any hatred for the Moon Empress. Or rather, it was not good to have any more hatred. After all, the Moon Empress was Lin Yuan's master. If he wanted to obtain Lin Yuan's love, he had to obtain the Moon Empress' approval. When Nana and the Moon Empress confronted each other, the Moon Empress stood in front of Lin Yuan. Through the way Lin Yuan looked at the Moon Empress, the Lian god knew how close the relationship between them was. Lian deity was lost in her thoughts. However, the Moon Empress' brows were tightly furrowed. The old man sitting in the wheelchair touched the armrest of his yellow dragonwood chair and said, "Compassionate Goddess, you deliberately returned to Radiance and used your life providence to ask us to meet. Don't tell me it's just to stare at us. I'm old. If that's the case, I won't waste any more time with you." Hearing this, the corners of Lian deity's lips curled up. The Compassion God had 3 plans in mind. These 3 plans would gradually strip away the Compassionate Goddess's benefits. What the Goddess of Mercy hated the most was when her own interests were harmed. Thus, the Compassion Goddess decided to start with the plan that was most beneficial to her. Moon Empress, that youth named Black, who is also known as Lin Yuan, should be your disciple, right? When the Moon Empress heard the Compassion God's words, she suddenly frowned. This was because she still remembered that the Compassion God had publicly stated that she wanted to take Lin Yuan as her favored. She wanted to take Lin Yuan back to the Freedom Federation. At that time, the Moon Empress was so furious that she almost couldn't help but attack the Compassion God. Lin Yuan could be said to be the person she valued the most. The Moon Empress could not stand any poaching. This had nothing to do with dignity. It was just a subconscious reaction in the Moon Empress' heart. However, now that the Moon Empress heard the Compassion God's words, she no longer felt that uncontrollable anger. At that time, the Compassion God had said such words in public, which could be understood as a spur of the moment. She had taken a fancy to Lin Yuan's talent. But now, the Compassion God had said it. The Moon Empress could no longer understand it this way. The Moon Empress could be sure that the Compassion God had targeted Lin Yuan for some reason. Now, she had specifically invited her here to talk about this matter. This showed that the Compassion God was determined to obtain Lin Yuan no matter what. This made the Moon Empress' killing intent soar. The Moon Empress looked at the old man beside her, and the old man immediately understood the meaning in the Moon Empress' eyes. The Moon Empress wanted to make a move with him to keep the Compassion God. Although the Radiance and the Freedom Federation were bound to fight, if they really made a move on the Compassion God, regardless of whether they could kill or severely injure the compassion god. The conflict between the Radiants and the Freedom Federation would quickly erupt. Now, the Radiance's mirror city in the Abyss world was still under construction. It would take at least more than a year to be completed. Therefore, the Radiance Federation had to fight for the 2-year buffer period before the 10,000 Nations Conference. The Compassion God was not that easy to kill. The Moon Empress had the intention to kill the Compassion God because the Rabbit Emperor's strength had also increased. However, no one knew if the Compassion God, who had awakened her birth providence many years ago, had any hidden tricks. Making a move in the Radiant's Sacred Hall was bound to threaten the royal capital's residents. However, the old man knew. The Moon Empress had made up her mind. Otherwise, she would not have made such a decision at this time. At that moment, the old man heard the Compassion God continue to speak. Moon Empress, I can use the Freedom Federation and all the information and intelligence you want to know to exchange for Lin Yuan. When the Moon Empress and the old man heard this, their expressions froze. Although the Moon Empress' intention to kill the Compassion God had not changed, her gaze had begun to re-examine the Compassion God. The Compassion God's words were equivalent to completely betraying the Freedom Federation. This was a situation that the Moon Empress and the old man had never thought of. A trace of doubt arose in the hearts of the Moon Empress and the old man. That was why Lin Yuan was so attractive to the Compassion God. Why was the Compassion God willing to make such a decision? After Lian Shen said that, she stared at the Moon Empress' face intently. She wanted to see the change in the Moon Empress' attitude. In the Compassion God's opinion, she should be able to achieve her goal by saying this. This was because her words were equivalent to bringing unimaginable benefits to the Radiance Federation. It would allow the Radiance Federation to have the upper hand in the battle with the Freedom Federation. However, the Moon Empress' expression let the Compassion God know that her idea had fallen through. Although the Moon Empress was moved by what she said, her firm expression showed that she had no intention of abandoning her disciple from the beginning to the end. The Compassion God, who already knew the answer, did not give the Moon Empress a chance to reject her. She continued with her second plan. 7017K. Chapter 1798. Lian God pondered for a moment and said, Lin Yuan, I can stay in Radiance, but I need a chance to talk to him face to face at any time. Apart from that, as a Class 5 Creation Master, I should be able to reach the Moon Empress level soon. I can provide a sum of Creation Master resources to Radiance every month. This sum of Creation Master resources will take up about 7 days of my time. After speaking, Lian God did not say anything else. She continued to look at the Moon Empress' expression. When the Moon Empress heard Lian God's words, her eyes narrowed. The Moon Empress knew very well that she had to clarify this matter with Lian God today. It was obvious that Lian God would not let Lin Yuan go. Lian God was willing to take out such a large sum of resources in exchange for a chance to talk to Lin Yuan face to face at any time. In the Moon Empress' opinion, this was rather absurd. According to Lian God, apart from the Freedom Federation's secrets, she was also willing to work for Radiance for 7 days every month. It was equivalent to giving Hui Yarrow 3 months of his time in a year and working for Hui Yarrow. This was equivalent to giving Radiance a quarter of Class 5 Creation Masters. If Lian God could also break through and become a Class 6 Creation Master. As a Class 6 Creation Master, the Moon Empress understood the difference in productivity between Class 6 and Class 5 Creation Masters. Not only could a Class 6 Creation Master purify the Eternal Heart, but their productivity was also 4 times that of a Class 5 Creation Master. In other words, once Lian God became a Class 6 Creation Master, it was equivalent to Radiance having an additional Class 5 Creation Master. This would greatly improve Radiance's top combat power. The Moon Empress wanted to make a move on Lian God because of her concern for Lin Yuan. As his master, she did not wish for Lin Yuan to be in any danger or trouble. However, Lian God did not intend to harm Lin Yuan, and she wanted to keep Lin Yuan in Radiance under the Moon Empress' eyes. With the Moon Empress looking after Lin Yuan could not be in any danger. Moreover, the Mansion Masters of the Heaven-Blessed Mansion, as well as the Grand Mansion Master Zi Qing, were all present. They were all in Lin Yuan's mansion. Back then, the Moon Empress had made the mother of Bloodbath Lin Yuan's path protector because she knew the mother of Bloodbath's origin. The Moon Empress wanted to create an opportunity for Lin Yuan to form a relationship with the heaven-blessed mansion. In the end, not only had he seized this opportunity, but he had also used his sincerity to exchange for the heaven-blessed mansion's friendship. Under the watchful eyes of the mansion lords of the blessed dojo, no matter how powerful Goddess Lian was, she would not be able to escape. It was also impossible to openly take him away or harm him. Now, the Moon Empress had to figure out why the compassionate goddess was willing to pay such a huge price to communicate with Lin Yuan face to face. The Moon Empress' sharp gaze landed on Lian Shen. Seeing this, Lian Shen could not help but feel nervous. Lian Shen felt a little regretful. Perhaps she shouldn't have informed the Moon Empress or this old man from Radiance in advance. He wanted to make a deal with the two of them. Instead, he should find a chance to secretly contact Lin Yuan when the two of them were not paying attention. What if the Moon Empress rejected him and hid Lin Yuan in the Radiant Moon Palace? In that case, he really had no chance at all. Just as God Lian was considering whether she should bring up the third option, Zhongxian's voice suddenly rang out. The Moon Empress said, "I can bring you to see my disciples. It's just that I must know why you're meeting my disciple. Otherwise, not only will you not be able to see my disciples, but I will also make you stay." As she spoke, a clear radiance appeared beside the Moon Empress. Within the clear radiance, a purple aura rose. A pure white rabbit holding a carrot appeared. It appeared in the Moon Empress' arms. The purple aura in the rabbit's eyes rose and instantly froze the Radiance Sacred Hall's space. Lian Shen sensed the stagnation of the space around her and looked at the rabbit in the Moon Empress' arms with a serious expression. "I didn't expect the Rabbit Emperor to have reached such a level. The birth providence has already ignited." As she spoke, she turned to look at the Moon Empress. "Moon Empress, don't think that the Rabbit Emperor can really make me stay just because he has reached the level of the Mirror God and the Fool God. If I want to leave, I can summon my sacred source life form, Chishi Lustful River. No one can stop me. This time, I'm sincerely here to negotiate with you. I believe my promise and actions have already expressed my sincerity. If you were confronting Nana just now, I wouldn't have said those words. Nana will definitely not leave so easily. As for why I want to see your disciples, I don't want to say it. But if you bring me to meet your disciples, you will be able to hear everything I say." When the Moon Empress heard the Lian Shen's words, she did not know what to say for a moment. The Moon Empress realized that the pitiful goddess was no longer as arrogant as she used to be. Her expression had become unusually sincere and gentle. However, the Moon Empress knew the Lian Shen very well. The Lian Shen was an extremely selfish person, or rather, the High Lords of the Freedom Federation were all the same. However, the other members of the Freedom Federation would not be like the Lian Shen, who would harm the interests of the entire Freedom Federation for her own benefit. It was rumored that the Lian Shen, the Mirror God, and the Fool God had a conflict. Because of the conflict between the three of them, the Class 6 Swamp Dimensional Rift in the Freedom Federation had almost closed. The Moon Empress had never believed that the rumor was true. But now, it seemed that the rumor was correct. Otherwise, the Lian Shen had no reason to do such a thing that went against the interests of the Freedom Federation. To put it bluntly, the Lian Shen did not have much sense of belonging to the Freedom Federation. On the contrary, the Lian Shen was more attractive to the Lian Shen. If she brought the Lian Shen to see Lin Yuan, whatever the Lian Shen said or did would be under the Moon Empress' eyes. When the time came, she could guess the Lian Shen's purpose through her behavior. The Moon Empress had already agreed with the Lian Shen. However, the Moon Empress did not agree immediately. At the same time, she gave a look to the old man beside her. The Moon Empress realized that ever since she met the Lian Shen, in order to win over Lin Yuan, the Lian Shen had been constantly relaxing the conditions. The Moon Empress wanted to use this opportunity to find out where the Lian Shen's bottom line was. The Lian Shen's bottom line was considered strategic intelligence for the Radiance Federation. Through the Lian Shen's bottom line, she could detect how much belonging the Lian Shen had to the Freedom Federation. In a situation where the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation were bound to fight, the Lian Shun could not help the Radiance Federation. Even if the Lian Shun did not help the Radiance Federation openly, as long as she could continue to provide the Freedom Federation with information, it was definitely a good thing that was hard to come by. It could be of great help to the Radiance Federation's strategic layout. 7017K. Chapter 1799. In the game between the two federations, information was sometimes more important than resources and strength. Any powerhouse whose strength had risen to the martial emperor level or above would be able to feel this. Not to mention the Majesty who was in the clouds. In fact, the battle between king-class experts was not just limited to rank, let alone emperor-class experts. In a situation where Fays restrained each other, it wasn't impossible for a pinnacle king-class expert to kill an emperor-class expert through trickery. The stronger the spirit chi professional, the more powerful the Fey they could control. The restraint between the Fays was also clearer. Goddess Lian must have detailed information about the Freedom Federation's experts. With this detailed information, she would be able to make the most effective counterattack. On the other hand, the information provided by Goddess Lian was not as simple as the experts' information. The Majesty of the Freedom Federation had a high degree of freedom. They could represent themselves at will and cooperate with other federations and other forces. But when it came to the Freedom Federation as a whole, big or small, it would be decided by the Majesty in the Freedom Temple. The matters discussed in the Freedom Temple were the Freedom Federation's secrets that would never be known by outsiders. If the Radiance Federation could get hold of it in advance, they would have the upper hand in the game with the Freedom Federation. Seeing that the Moon Empress did not respond to her second proposal, Goddess Lian knew that the Moon Empress was manipulating her. Otherwise, after summoning the Rabbit Emperor, the Moon Empress should have made a move on her. Until now, the Moon Empress and the Radiance Federation's elders had not made a move, which meant that they had tacitly agreed to the deal. This made Goddess Lian calm down. If it was in the past, the Moon Empress would be manipulating her. Goddess Lian would definitely not be willing. But now, she wanted to use the Moon Empress manipulation to express her attitude towards the Radiance Federation. Goddess Lian knew very well that she had betrayed the Freedom Federation's interests in order to find an opportunity to improve. It could even be said that it was against the Freedom Federation. Once this matter was spread out, there would be no place for her in the Freedom Federation. However, Goddess Lian did not regret her actions at all. If it was not for the Mirror God and the Foolish God, she was afraid that she would be a threat to them. He was the first to destroy his own hope, and then he suppressed him again and again. Why did she have to do this? Goddess Lian was an extremely selfish and cold-blooded person. She might not remember the good things that others did to her. However, if others did not treat her well, the Goddess of Pity would remember it in her heart. Thus, after making this decision, Goddess Lian no longer tied herself to the interests of the Freedom Federation. On the contrary, she was leaning toward the Radiance Federation. She hoped that the Radiance Federation would give her a guarantee. At the same time, in the process of providing information, he could not let his efforts go to waste. Give me a certain amount of material support. Now, the Goddess of Mercy had a troubled expression on her face. A few moments later, the Compassion Goddess felt that she was almost done. If he continued, it would be too fake. Therefore, Lian Shun threw out her third condition. In the future, in the conflict between the Radiance Federation and the Freedom Federation, I can act as a third party to help the Radiance Federation and form an alliance with them. The Moon Empress was certain after hearing the pitiful god's words. Goddess Lian no longer had any bottom line towards the Freedom Federation. The current Goddess Lian had already begun to act as a third party, relying on the Freedom Federation to obtain benefits for herself. To Goddess Lian, forming an alliance with Hui Yao as a third party was a good thing for Hui Yao. Fortunately, the Compassionate Goddess was not talking about joining Radiance. If the Compassionate Goddess joined the Radiance Federation, neither the Moon Empress nor the old man would agree. The Radiance Federation was able to develop until now and catch up to become one of the three major federations. It relied on the unity of the eminences. Back when the old man was in a desperate situation, he stepped on the path to heaven and awakened his fate. This made the Freedom Federation start to fear Hui Yarrow in a real sense. It also made the Azure Federation recognize the Radiance Federation as one of the three major federations. After the old man determined that he had no hope of breaking through in his lifetime, for the sake of Hui Yarrow's foundation, he used his vitality and the spark ignited in his fate to refine the 7 major federations. This allowed the 7 major federations to have a qualitative improvement. Now, the Moon Empress generation was able to rely on the old man's protection to hold up the Great Pillar. Therefore, all the eminences in the Radiance Federation were in awe of this old man. Unity had become a kind of soul of Hui Yarrow, and it was carried out in Hui Yarrow's spirit. The compassionate goddess could use the Freedom Federation as a bargaining chip for her own goals. After joining the Radiance Federation, she would never be at peace. This was determined by the compassionate goddess's quality, character, and worldview. However, as long as the compassionate goddess did not join the Radiance Federation, there would be no problem in forming an alliance with them. At that moment, the Moon Empress finally spoke. "Since we have become allies, why don't the compassionate goddess and the two of us have a meeting in the Radiance Sacred Hall? Sincerity is never expressed with words. During the meeting, I hope the compassionate goddess can show us your sincerity to the Radiance Federation." Upon hearing this, the compassionate goddess sat on the golden silk suet jade chair at the side. "Of course, just in time for us to go see Lin Yuan after the meeting. I can also set off to return to the Freedom Federation." A meeting between the three of them was quietly carried out in the Radiance Sacred Hall. Within the next 2 years, this meeting would affect the entire main world structure. After Lin Yuan let the Remembrance Soul Whale condense the Jade Gui's soul, everyone had a meal together. Zi Qing, Xue Shuo, Lan Lian, Bai Feng, and the others wanted to express their gratitude to him again. Lin Yuan rejected it right away. The blessing that Lan Lian had given Lin Yuan could be said to be a great help to him. At that time, it was precisely because of Lan Lian's blessing that the power of faith in Lin Yuan's shrine could be completely combined with his mermaid state. In his body, a special and pure mermaid bloodline was born. As a human, Lin Yuan was in the state of fusion with a fae. Because of the favored spirit's blessing, a new kind of bloodline was born. Although this bloodline had arisen because of Blue, it was now in Lin Yuan's body and had nothing to do with Blue. This could be said to be a kind of fortuitous encounter for Lin Yuan. However, Lin Yuan was not sure if this fortuitous encounter was good or bad for him. Lin Yuan declined the material gratitude that Zi Qing and the others expressed to him. Instead, he threw out a sentence. "Auntie Zi Qing, you are the Grand Hall Master of the Heaven-Blessed Dojo, and the Tower Cannon is the enemy of the Heaven-Blessed Dojo. The Freedom Federation and the Radiance Federation are enemies. The Tower Cannon and the Freedom Federation have a cooperative relationship. I hope that the Heaven-Blessed Dojo and the Radiance Federation can also reach a close cooperative relationship. 7017K. Chapter 1800. When Lin Yuan said this, he thought about it very seriously. Although this method was a little unkind, it seemed to have the intention of pulling the Blessed Mansion into their group. However, Hui Yarrow really needed an ally like the Heaven-Blessed Dojo. Lin Yuan had thought that Zi Qing would first think about it before giving him an answer. Unexpectedly, Zi Qing had agreed to it without hesitation. "Little Yuan, I will personally head to the Radiance Imperial Court tomorrow morning to visit the Radiance Imperial Court. At the same time, I will officially invite Hui Yarrow to become an ally." "Oh right. When I came here, I saw the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids near the Ageless Continent. The Imperial Mermaids' target is the Radiance Continent. There is a Radiance Ocean Treaty between the Radiance and the Sea Clan. Is there a conflict between the Imperial Mermaid Clan and the Radiance Federation?" Zi Qing's words caused Lin Yuan to rejoice. It would be great if Heaven-Blessed Dojo could officially become the Radiance Federation's ally. However, after hearing about the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids, his expression immediately turned cold. Back then, the mother of Bloodbath had almost been killed by the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids. The image of the mother of Bloodbath covered in spikes was still vivid in his mind. In the end, the Shark Mang used the blood energy in its body and the 6-star sacred source lifeform, Scarlet Tentacle Algae, to help the Mother of Bloodbath. This allowed the Mother of Bloodbath to rely on this huge amount of bloodline energy to break through to Myth 3 and awaken the Sky Corona Jade Spider bloodline in its body. Otherwise, where would he collect such a huge amount of blood energy for the Mother of Bloodbath? The Blood Brew grapevine was definitely going to become the Mother of Bloodbath's nutrients. There was no chance of survival. Now, the Blood Brew grapevine had survived, and under the Mother of Bloodbath's nurturing, its bloodline had improved. However, the shark ray's help to the Mother of Bloodbath was purely because Lin Yuan had summoned Bai Yang. In terms of strength, he had crushed Shark Mang. Otherwise, Shark Mang would not have sacrificed his life and provided all his blood energy to the Mother of Bloodbath. Help the Mother of Bloodbath increase its strength. Therefore, he would never let go of the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids. Zi Qing had just arrived and did not know the situation. Now that Zi Qing mentioned the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids, before Lin Yuan could speak, Blue Lotus spoke up angrily. Back then, the people of the Imperial Mermaid clan almost killed Sister Yu Gui's child. If it weren't for Lin Yuan, Big Sister Jade Gui's child would have died in the ocean. The Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids have a blood feud with our heaven-blessed mansion. Sister Ziqing, our heaven-blessed dojo has always been hiding from the world so that we won't be disturbed by the troubles of the world. But first, Pagoda Dian made a move against Big Sister Jade Gui, and now, the Imperial Mermaids and Merman clan made a move against Xueqing. Our heavens-blessed dojo has been hiding from the world again and again, so we can only be bullied by the outside world. Now that you've decided to form an alliance with the Radiance sect, the blessed dojo will be entering the world. Why don't we just destroy the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids clan? As one of the 8 clans of the Ocean Empire, the Imperial Mermaid clan is in cahoots with the Freedom Federation. The entire clan migrated to the sea near the Freedom Federation, breaking the division of power between the sea folk. The 8 clans of the Sea Monarch were born to maintain the order of the sea. The Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids clan doesn't deserve to sit on this seat. Zi Qing knew very well that Lan Lian never had a talkative personality. The reason why she was saying so much in front of her was because the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids had almost killed Xueqing, and Lan Lian wanted revenge. No matter how calm Zi Qing was, after hearing Lan Lian's words, a wave of anger and lingering fear involuntarily surged from her heart. Fortunately, Yu Gui, Xue Shuo, and Xueqing's family of 3 had reunited after a long time, and had already gone out to have a heart-to-heart talk. If Yu Gui knew that Xueqing had almost died and fallen into a dangerous situation, he would definitely be sad and blame himself. Zi Qing said coldly. This time, other than delivering the handkerchief containing Yu Gui's remnant soul, I had originally planned to stain my hands with the blood of the Pagoda Canon. Since I don't know why the 2 people in the 8 pages of the Pagoda Canon did not appear in Hui Yarrow, then let's start with the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaid. Among the sea folk, there are many who can fill the positions of the 8 clans of the Ocean Empire. The destruction of the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids will not affect the sea folk at all. I believe that the people from the vast ocean labyrinth will not have any objections. After all, the 8 great clans of the Sea Empire are merely puppets that they have raised up to rule the Sea Tribe. Lanlian, Baifeng, you 2 go inform the others to surround and annihilate the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids clan. Let's do it before they arrive at Hui Yarrow. When Zi Qing heard the news from Lanlian, he decided to exterminate the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids. The reason why he suggested taking action before the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids reached the Hui Yarrow clan was because Zi Qing wanted to return Hui Yarrow a favor. There was a natural barrier between humans and the sea race. One side was a human, while the other was a fae. The Radiance Federation and the oceanic species signed the Radiance Sea Treaty. To both sides, it was binding. If Hui Yarrow and the Imperial Mermaid clan were to act, even if the Imperial Mermaid clan was in the wrong in this matter, it was very likely that the entire Sea clan would be displeased. After all, although the sea race had internal conflicts, the sea race was still a whole entity. The ocean labyrinth would never allow a human to kill a group of relatively stronger puppets under its command. If this matter were to blow up, Hui Yarrow would not benefit at all. The surface area of the sea was twice that of the land. Back then, there was a federation with a Class 5 creation master, the Ice Federation. Due to the wanton hunting of the sea race, the ocean labyrinth was displeased. Finally, the ice continent where the Ice Federation was located was surrounded by surging waves. Huge waves that were 7,000 to 8,000 meters tall carried seawater and poured into the Ice Federation. It directly swept the entire ice continent where the Ice Federation was located with a flood and tsunami. In the end, the ocean labyrinth even sent an expert to kill the Ice Federation's Class 5 creation master. It was because of this matter that the ocean labyrinth attracted the dissatisfaction of all the Federation with Class 5 creation masters. This caused the ocean labyrinth to be forced to make a promise. As long as humans did not wantonly hunt the sea race and only followed the natural law of the jungle in the sea, they would maintain basic fishing. The ocean labyrinth would no longer appear. This matter had passed for many years. The ocean labyrinth should have been looking for an opportunity to appear. It was not good for the Radiance Federation to make a move on the Imperial Mermaid clan, but if the Heaven-Blessed Dojo made a move on the Imperial Mermaid clan, there was no need to worry. Firstly, the Heaven-Blessed Dojo was also a Fae. Secondly, the Heaven-Blessed Dojo had 3 dojo lords married into the ocean labyrinth. If the ocean labyrinth dared to find trouble with the Heaven-Blessed Dojo, all of them would probably have to kneel at the bottom of the sea. After all, in the Heaven-Blessed Dojo, apart from the Jade Gui, there didn't seem to be any female Heaven-Blessed Dojo that was truly gentle. 7017 K. Chapter 1801. Of course, this didn't mean that the ocean labyrinth's strength was inferior to the Heaven-Blessed Mansion. On the contrary, if one were to really compare, the true ruling power of the sea region, the ocean labyrinth, actually had more experts than the Heaven-Blessed Dojo. After all, the area of the sea region was there for all to see. The 3 hall lords of the Blessed Dojo who had married into the vast ocean labyrinth were able to have such status. On one hand, it was because the Blessed Dojo was indeed strong enough and was a power that matched the vast ocean labyrinth. The other reason was that the vast ocean maze's sovereign emperors were all infatuated and henpecked. He treated his wife so well that no one could say anything about it. Thus, it was most appropriate for the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids to be dealt with by the Heaven-Blessed Mansion. After exterminating the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids at the Heaven-Blessed Mansion, not only did the vast ocean labyrinth not say anything, it even expressed its apologies to the Blessed Mansion. If Xueqing's 3 aunts knew that Xueqing had almost died in the hands of the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids, even in the ocean labyrinth, he would have to deal with the Imperial Mermaids and Mermaids who were puppets by himself. Otherwise, how could the 3 sovereign emperors in the vast ocean labyrinth bear it if Xueqing's 3 aunts returned to their parents' home? However, it was clear that Zi Qing did not intend to take things to such an extent. Lan Lian's eyes lit up when she heard Zi Qing's words. He said hurriedly, "Sister Ziqing, Bai Feng doesn't understand anything. Leave this matter to me." After that, Lan Lian took out her phone excitedly. Bai Feng could not help but roll her eyes at Lan Lian's words. "Wretched girl. Even now, you still don't forget to insult me." This was the first time Lin Yuan had heard of the vast ocean maze. He still did not know much about the sea species faction. Zi Qing did not see Lin Yuan in his mermaid state. If Zi Qing had seen it, she would have thought to herself, he did not need to understand what kind of faction the vast ocean maze was. When the ocean maze saw him in his mermaid state, it would definitely take the initiative to contact him. After everything was settled, Lin Yuan returned to his room. Before entering the spirit lock spatial zone, he planned to check on the willpower rune that he had just comprehended that was related to the soul. After returning to his room, Lin Yuan circulated his spiritual energy and summoned the willpower rune that was dancing in his soul. The milky white translucent willpower rune was constantly collapsing and reforming. Lin Yuan sensed a willpower called soul gathering from it. The appearance of this willpower rune surprised Lin Yuan. This was because he had comprehended 2 willpower runes after he had formed a contract with the Thought Soul Whale and used it to absorb souls. These 2 willpower runes were very similar, but their essence was completely different. It was the willpower rune that he had comprehended through absorbing the remnant soul through the Thought Soul Whale. It referred to the absorption of the soul, not the reorganization of the soul. Back then, The psychic whale had used that willpower rune to successfully evolve into a fantasy breed. He had obtained the exclusive skill, soul remembrance. This allowed the soul whale to collect and fuse dead souls. When the dead soul reached a certain degree of completeness, it would become a soul remembrance imprint. It attached itself to a life form of the same species and increased its ability to comprehend. It made it easier for life forms of the same species to comprehend the same laws. Lin Yuan's new soul-related willpower rune was more suitable for the thought soul whale. However, Lin Yuan did not regret letting the thought soul whale fuse with a willpower rune related to the soul. Lin Yuan really liked the psychic soul whale's exclusive skill after becoming a fantasy breed, Endow of Soul Remembrance. This exclusive skill, Endow of Soul Remembrance, could not only assist Lin Yuan himself. It could also help Lin Yuan manage his faction. In the team battle, Lin Yuan had displayed such powerful strength as a B-rank spirit chi professional. It could not be separated from Lin Yuan's extreme nurturing of Fays. This was the first time Lin Yuan had summoned Genius to battle. Back then, Genius had used its full strength to suppress Lu Ou, who had fused with Great Devil. The subsequent elemental attacks and physical attacks were all powerful. This was all thanks to Genius Cat's Cluster. The strength of Cat's Cluster came from those feline Fays in the Swamp World and the Spirit Cat Paradise. If Lin Yuan wanted to increase Genius strength, he had to nurture these feline Fays. Lin Yuan had the 100 Questions Beast Legion. He also had the Class 5 Creation Master Di1Mi. He didn't lack Creation Master resources anymore. However, Creation Master resources could upgrade these feline Fays to Diamond X Legend. However, they could not help these feline Fays comprehend the willpower rune and comprehend the laws. This made it so that after reaching Diamond X Legend, if these feline Fays wanted to upgrade again, they would have to spend a lot of effort. It would become extremely difficult. But now, with the Remembrance Soul Whale's exclusive skill, Soul Remembrance, these feline Fays in the Spirit Cat Paradise wanted to comprehend the willpower rune and comprehend the laws. It would be much easier. Lin Yuan and Genius were helping each other out. Genius might be powerful, but if Lin Yuan was not Genius Contractor and was someone else, that person would definitely not be able to nurture Genius to such an extent. In order to increase Genius strength, he had to use the best method to nurture a large number of feline Fays. Right now, there were 3,472 feline Fays in the Spirit Cat Paradise. However, these feline Fays were far from the limit that Genius could contract. Given Genius' current spiritual energy, it would be able to contract at least 7,000 feline Fays through its Lord of Myriad Cats ability. Right now, it had contracted over 3,000 feline Fays because before the Radiance 100 sequence selection, Lin Yuan was not able to obtain so many high-quality feline Fays in one go. Each of the feline Fays had been enhanced to Diamond X Legend using the best method. In fact, it did not improve Genius much. It could be said that using the Cat's Cluster to enhance Genius strength was an extremely low price-performance ratio. Even Class 5 Creation Masters might not be willing to spend so many resources to nurture Fays. Only Lin Yuan had the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone and a special physique. Only then could he nurture Genius. Not only Genius, but Red Thorn's Mouth of Relinquish was also a bottomless pit that needed to constantly devour resources. Chimey needed a large number of strange flames to temper the sun in its body. Even the Source Sand, which was easier to nurture, needed to grind about 20 Earth-type Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls every day. It used the pure Earth-type elemental energy in the Earth-type elemental pearls to nurture the Guard Sand. Lin Yuan himself was a bottomless pit for resources. It was the same for Sky City. The Remembrance Soul Whale's exclusive skill, Soul Remembrance, saved Lin Yuan a lot of trouble. In Lin Yuan's opinion, this exclusive skill was even more precious than some sacred source life forms. Right now, Lin Yuan did not have a suitable Fey to use for this Soul Gather willpower rune. Lin Yuan did not have any plans to nurture a Fey for this willpower rune. 7017K. Chapter 1802. Lin Yuan planned to store this willpower rune first as he would have a use for it in the future. After checking his newly obtained willpower rune, he entered the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. The first thing Lin Yuan did after entering the spirit lock spatial zone was to take the emerald green dimensional gem. Lin Yuan looked at the Morbius trench in his mind. Morbius, you previously said that this dimensional gem can complete you. I wonder how I should use this dimensional gem. Hearing this, Morbius could not suppress the anticipation in its voice. This stone shouldn't be called a dimensional gem. I can't remember what it's called. It's just that this gem can make me feel that this is a part of what I need. Partner, place this gem in the groove of my body. My main body will merge with it, and I will fall into a deep slumber. When I wake up, I should be able to find out what this gem is. Apart from being able to unlock Spirit Lock's Fey ability, there might be other surprises. When Lin Yuan heard that Morbius was going to sleep again, his heart tightened. He was not afraid that he would encounter some problems after Morbius fell asleep. He liked to communicate with Morbius in his mind. Morbius was Lin Yuan's companion Fey, and they were interdependent. He could tell Morbius many things that he could not say to Chu Ci without reservation. Right now, if Morbius was asleep. Judging from the length of Morbius's slumber, it was impossible for Morbius to survive. He felt that it would probably take a long time before he could communicate with Morbius again. However, it was a good thing for Morbius to mend itself. Lin Yuan was also very happy. Lin Yuan could feel the anticipation in Morbius' heart. Any life form, not just Fays, would look forward to their own improvement. It was the same for Morbius. Since Lin Yuan could perceive Morbius' thoughts, Morbius could also clearly perceive Lin Yuan's thoughts. Upon sensing Lin Yuan's intentions, Morbius' voice softened for no reason. Buddy, I only need to sleep for 8 hours. I will be able to complete the fusion with this emerald gem. It won't take too long. Tonight, I will be able to meet you in a completely new manner. In these 8 hours, think carefully about which phase ability to be unlocked. After hearing Morbius' words, he knew that Morbius would only need to sleep for 8 hours before waking up. A bright smile immediately appeared on Lin Yuan's face. As for which spirit lock Fey to unseal, Lin Yuan had already thought of it beforehand. Lin Yuan planned to unseal the jasmine lily first. There were 2 reasons why Lin Yuan had chosen to unseal the jasmine lily. On one hand, it was because Little Black and Zixiao were both assistants. The Soul Remembrance Whale was a functional type Fey. Compared to support, healing was more important. This team battle had allowed him to basically understand who his teammates would be after he became a Radiance Envoy. It could be said that none of Lin Yuan's batch of youths were pure healing-type spirit chi professionals. In the process of forming a team, Lin Yuan had to shoulder the responsibility of healing the team. Little Hei's spirit recovery ability collided with Gao Feng's ability. Purple Firmament's ability collided with Jiu Lang's ability. Lin Yuan had never fought against Jiu Lang and had never had the chance to fight alongside him. However, during the return from Faraway Manor's meeting before the Radiance 100 sequence selection, everyone understood each other's phase. Jiu Lang's control ability was paired with the sacred source life form. It could be said that he could control the entire battlefield in multiple dimensions. As a functional type Fey, the Soul Remembrance Whale was not within Lin Yuan's consideration. Thus, the Jasmine Lily was Lin Yuan's best choice. On the other hand, the Jasmine Lily's exclusive skill, Severed Connection, was combined with the mother of Bloodbath's sacred source life form, the Myriad Herb Spring. Together with the Soul Remembrance Whale's ability, it could bring living beings back from the dead and reconstruct their bodies. Lin Yuan wanted to see if the Jasmine Lily's unsealing ability could improve the Myriad Herb Spring's abilities to a greater extent. Lin Yuan said to Morbius with determination, "I choose the Jasmine Lily." Hearing this, Morbius said with relief, "Partner, this is the wisest choice." Morbius and Lin Yuan conversed for a while before Lin Yuan placed the emerald gem into the groove of the Morbius bracelet. Morbius' copper-colored body suddenly blossomed with resplendent copper-colored light. The emerald gem also lit up with a faint green glow. The copper glow enveloped the green glow. Lin Yuan realized that after the copper glow completely enveloped the green glow, the emerald gem invaded the Morbius bracelet. It formed a hole with the Morbius bracelet. Lin Yuan waited for Morbius to wake up 8 hours later. It was not just because Lin Yuan was looking forward to the unsealing of the Jasmine Lily. At the same time, Lin Yuan was also looking forward to Morbius' new enhancements after fusing with the gem. At the same time, Lin Yuan was also looking forward to the new enhancements that Morbius would obtain after fusing with the gem. It could be said that every enhancement of Morbius was of great help to Lin Yuan. Just like the elemental well that had appeared in the Spirit Lock spatial zone not long ago. At the bottom of the well, there was already a thin layer of well water. It was like the accumulated water on the roadside after a rain. There was still too little well water in the elemental well. If Lin Yuan wanted to use it in large quantities, he would need to wait for a period of time. Lin Yuan had given Nana to save Lu Oyu. He kept the 3 sacred source lifeforms that were used as compensation. These 3 uncontracted sacred source lifeforms were like a blind box to Lin Yuan. Since Lin Yuan knew how sacred source lifeforms were formed, he preferred to obtain sacred source lifeforms from dimensional worlds that were clear about their origins. Lin Yuan could vaguely guess the abilities of these sacred source lifeforms that he could confirm their origins. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to use these 3 sacred source lifeforms as Sky City's reserve resources as a reward for his subordinates who had contributed to Sky City. The phaseless beast cub's roars kept ringing in Lin Yuan's soul. Lin Yuan did not have any good ideas for dealing with this suzerain phaseless beast. The phaseless beast burrowed into his soul, and Morbius used its power of origin to seal his soul. It cut off the connection between Lu Oyu and the phaseless beast. However, as long as Lin Yuan released the phaseless beast would be able to sense it. No matter how far away they were, Lu Oyu would be able to sense the phaseless beast. To put it bluntly, Lin Yuan could only choose to keep the phaseless beast in his soul. Either he killed this phaseless beast that brought disaster to the world. However, he was unable to completely control this phaseless beast that brought calamity to the world. One had to know that Lin Yuan coveted this phaseless beast that brought calamity to the world. Chapter 1803. The phaseless beast that Lin Yuan had snatched from Lu Oyu was the same as Genius Chimey. It used its own bloodline to create a species Fey. It was a unique existence in the world. This phaseless beast cub was produced by the phaseless beast mother body. Lin Yuan had never seen the mother before, so he did not know what abilities it had. However, the mother's ability, Nation Luck Steal, and its exclusive skill, Disaster Luck. They were all abilities that Lin Yuan had never seen in other lifeforms. It could extract the luck of the land and steal it for its own use to increase the effects of its abilities. This allowed the phaseless beast to have the ability to fight across a major realm. Nation Luck Steal required lifespan, which was a shortcoming of the phaseless beast. If there was a way to increase the lifespan of the phaseless beast, it could be offset by its exclusive skill, Count Lifespan. The phaseless beast could definitely be called a great killing weapon. As for the exclusive skill, Phaseless Face, it allowed the phaseless beast to be abnormally flexible in combat. During a team battle, the phaseless beast could make up for the team's shortcomings according to the team's configuration. During the battle, Lu Oyu had made this phaseless beast, which brought calamity to the world, change into his appearance. Before he could launch an attack, he stared at Lin Yuan and was in a stalemate with him. In the end, the phaseless beast was imprisoned in Lin Yuan's soul. There was no effect at all. If Lu Oyu had not made the phaseless beast target him, he would not have been able to control it. Instead, he would have used the incantations, curse words, and curse heart to control it. It would have undoubtedly put a lot of pressure on the Radiance's side. The suzerain phaseless beast's grade was higher than all of Lin Yuan, Zhong Ziyi, and Gao Feng's phase. Therefore, there was no need to worry about control. Liu Yifun's phase and sacred source lifeforms mostly had physical and elemental defenses. They were lacking in defense against the spirit, soul, and heart. This made it very difficult to restrain and target the phaseless beast when it was controlled. In addition, the Radiance's strategy was to kill Yang Ling first and remove the link between the 3 sacred source lifeforms. If Lu Oyu had not instructed the phaseless beast to attack Lin Yuan but had allowed it to replicate her into Yang Ling after Yang Ling was killed, the phaseless beast would not have been able to kill Lin Yuan. It would be able to support the 3 sacred source lifeforms working together again. It would have been fine if Lin Yuan had not obtained this phaseless beast. Now that he had obtained the phaseless beast, he could only look on helplessly. It was truly infuriating. Upon hearing the phaseless beast's incessant hooting in his soul, Lin Yuan prepared to tease this phaseless beast. However, just as Lin Yuan was preparing to tease this phaseless beast that was wreaking havoc, the phone suddenly rang. Lin Yuan picked up his cell phone and realized that the call was from the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan hurriedly picked it up. Lin Yuan heard the Moon Empress say in a rather serious tone, "Little Yuan, come to the Radiant Moon Palace at 9 p.m. With that, the Moon Empress hung up the phone. He immediately knew that his master, the Moon Empress, had something to look for him, and it should be a rather important matter. Otherwise, according to the agreement between him and the Moon Empress, he should be going to the Radiant Moon Palace tomorrow. For a moment, Lin Yuan could not figure out why the Moon Empress would suddenly look for him. There was still some time before 9 p.m., so Lin Yuan did not think too much about it. He continued to study the phaseless beast that was wreaking havoc. This phaseless beast was not a cat species Fae. Otherwise, when Lin Yuan was smart enough to suppress this phaseless beast cub, he would be able to use the Lord of Cats' ability to control this phaseless beast cub. Through the skill Lord of 10,000 Cats, he could control this phaseless beast cub. After studying for 2 hours, Lin Yuan could not come up with any good ideas. After studying for 2 hours, Lin Yuan, who could not come up with any good ideas, secretly probed. If it really did not work, he could only kill this phaseless beast cub. He would then hand over this phaseless beast cub to the 100 Questions Beast Legion. He wanted the 100 Questions Beast Legion to study the situation of this phaseless beast that brought disaster to the world. Perhaps they would be able to find the method to nurture this phaseless beast. Of course, Lin Yuan knew that it was too difficult to pry out the secret of this phaseless beast. Just like when the flower branch rat and the longevity rat were placed together, no one would think that the longevity rat was nurtured from the flower branch rat. Genius had transformed from a 100 Questions beast to a heaven-knowing destiny beast. Genius strength was at Diamond X Fantasy V. The 100 Questions beasts in the 100 Questions Beast Legion were also at Diamond X. However, none of the 100 Questions beasts had transformed into heaven-knowing destiny beasts during the process of increasing their strength. Not to mention heaven-knowing destiny beasts, not even one had transformed into the interconnected life beast. Lin Yuan could not help but guess that only the first one had taken a special path. Only a Fae with its own species could be so extraordinary. Currently, Morbius was in a deep slumber. Lin Yuan planned to wait for Morbius to wake up 8 hours later and have a good talk with it. He wanted to see if Morbius had any good ideas. There was still a while before the appointment with the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan started to organize the spoils of war that he had obtained from the battle with the Freedom Federation's envoys. After organizing everything, Lin Yuan planned to head to the Radiant Moon Palace to see why his master, the Moon Empress, was looking for him. Originally, Lin Yuan should have thrown these sacred source lifeforms to Di Wanmi. Especially Qian Yu's 8-star sacred source lifeform, Hidden Sea Muse. During the battle with Han Qi, Lin Yuan had witnessed the power of offensive artifacts. Therefore, Lin Yuan especially wanted to create an artifact for himself. The artifact created by the Hidden Sea Muse was only suitable for Lin Yuan in his mermaid state. Regardless of whether Lin Yuan was in his normal state or in his mermaid state, he was still Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan felt that he would probably have to equip 2 sets of artifacts in the future. It was suitable for him to use in different states. It seemed that Di Wanmi would be used by Lin Yuan to create artifacts from now on. There were still 10 minutes before 9 o'clock. Lin Yuan used the ethereal jellyfish's ability node to teleport and appeared in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace. However, the moment Lin Yuan appeared in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace, his eyes immediately widened. This was because Lin Yuan realized that there was a person beside the exquisite jade table in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace. Apart from his master, the Moon Empress, there was also a person that Lin Yuan had a deep impression of. This person was the Pity God. Under normal circumstances, Lin Yuan's first impression of the pity god should be the Freedom Federation's majesty. However, the moment Lin Yuan transformed into a mermaid, he could clearly sense the mermaid bloodline in the pity god's body. 7017K. Chapter 1804. The mermaid bloodline in Goddess Lian's body was much stronger than Qian Yu's mermaid bloodline after fusing with an 8-star sacred source life form. But compared to Lin Yuan's mermaid bloodline, there was still a huge gap. The mermaid bloodline was extremely exclusive. Lin Yuan, who was in his mermaid state, looked down on Qian Yu's mermaid bloodline. Similarly, he looked down on Goddess Lian's mermaid bloodline. Especially after the Blue Lotus's blessing caused the mermaid bloodline in his body to transform. This rejection of Goddess Lian's mermaid bloodline, or rather, contempt, became stronger and stronger. Even if Lin Yuan did not enter his mermaid state. Due to the influence of the bloodline in his body, Lin Yuan actually subconsciously looked down on the pity god, who could crush him with a single finger. Goddess Lian would appear in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace, and his master would be there as well. This meant that Goddess Lian was a guest. Logically speaking, Lin Yuan should have greeted Goddess Lian after greeting the Moon Empress. However, the pride of the merfolk bloodline in his body made him subconsciously not do so. It was just like how a flood dragon looked down on a green insect. As soon as Lin Yuan arrived, the little white rabbit in the Moon Empress' arms bounced into Lin Yuan's arms. Lin Yuan knew that the little white rabbit that his master usually carried was called Zixi. Lin Yuan tried to touch Zixi. But previously, Zixi would immediately jump away every time Lin Yuan stretched out his hand, as if she despised him. But this time, why had Zixi taken the initiative to jump into his arms? Lin Yuan thought for a while and immediately understood. Zixi, who was in his arms, still looked reluctant as she squirmed around in his arms. She hugged Radish tightly, as if afraid that Lin Yuan would snatch Radish away. At the same time, Lin Yuan's ears perked up, obviously entering a state of alertness. Presumably, because Goddess Lian was present, his master had asked Zixi to protect him. This meant that the Moon Empress did not trust Goddess Lian. Lin Yuan did not waste his brain to think about what was going on. His master had invited him to the Radiant Moon Palace, and it must have something to do with Goddess Lian. Lin Yuan only needed to wait for the Moon Empress to mention it. The moment Lin Yuan appeared, the Goddess of Mercy appeared. The close contact with Lin Yuan immediately made the merfolk bloodline in Lian Shen's body restless. Lian Shen forcefully circulated the spiritual energy in her body to suppress the restlessness of her mermaid bloodline. Only then could he barely maintain his calm on the surface. He did not want to lose his composure in front of the Moon Empress. If he lost his composure in front of the Moon Empress, the merfolk bloodline aura in his body would go out of control. The Moon Empress would immediately guess the reason why she wanted to get in touch with Lin Yuan. This was contrary to Goddess Lian's plan. Goddess Compassion would be willing to cooperate with Radiance and betray the Freedom Federation. It was all for a chance to improve further. Once the Moon Empress knew of his objective, it would be the same as the Moon Empress grabbing onto his weakness. This was a situation that the Goddess of Mercy would never allow to happen. After Lin Yuan walked to the Moon Empress' side, the Moon Empress released her aura and enveloped Lin Yuan. He turned to Lian Shen and said, "My disciple is already standing in front of you. If there's anything you want to say to my disciple, say it quickly." Through the way Lin Yuan looked at the Moon Empress, Lian Shen knew that Lin Yuan trusted the Moon Empress wholeheartedly. In front of the Moon Empress, he was in a defenseless state. The Goddess of Mercy had never been defenseless against anyone. In the Goddess of Mercy's view, being defenseless was the deepest feeling. Therefore, the Goddess of Mercy's heart couldn't help but surge with jealousy toward the Moon Empress. The Goddess of Mercy also hoped that Lin Yuan would also enter such a state towards her. In this way, would it still be far for her to obtain Lin Yuan's love? The mermaid bloodline in Lin Yuan's body had just transformed into the mermaid imperial bloodline. It still needed some time to stabilize. Therefore, the Goddess of Mercy's visit this time was mainly to let Lin Yuan know about her, and to have a deep impression of herself. Then, she could also take advantage of this opportunity to express her goodwill to Lin Yuan. The Goddess of Mercy's eyes looked at Lin Yuan. She wanted to express her goodwill to Lin Yuan. However, when she saw Lin Yuan's exquisite facial features and the bloodline aura hidden in his body, the goddess of mercy's golden red fishtail trembled unconsciously. This made the goddess of mercy, who had been enjoying the benefits of the mermaid bloodline and causing the extinction of the mermaid race, curse in her heart for the first time. The disappointment of the bloodline in her body. Lin Yuan was now of the mermaid imperial family's bloodline. In the future, the mermaid imperial bloodline in Lin Yuan's body would continue to strengthen, and eventually reach the peak of the imperial bloodline. If she couldn't obtain Lin Yuan's love before that, her bloodline would improve further. She was afraid that she wouldn't have the courage to sit face to face with Lin Yuan. Even if they sat face to face, even if she tried her best to suppress it, it was impossible to be like this without revealing flaws. This made the goddess of mercy immediately realize that Lin Yuan was both her help and her hindrance. Even with Lin Yuan's strength, it would be impossible for him to catch up with her for a long time. However, if Lin Yuan released the power of his bloodline in front of her and suppressed the mermaid bloodline in her body, then, when facing an eternal realm Fae, it was very likely that she would be at a disadvantage. Understanding this, the goddess of mercy looked at Lin Yuan with a strange gaze, with a bit of vigilance and scrutiny. But soon, a trace of guilt uncontrollably welled up in the depths of the goddess of mercy's heart. It was as if her vigilance and scrutiny of Lin Yuan was a sin in itself. At that moment, for the first time, the goddess of mercy had the urge to flee. Taking a deep breath, the goddess of mercy forced herself to calm down and said, "I am a pinnacle class 5 creation master. Qian Yu's sacred source lifeform is very compatible with you, so I can still stay in the Radiance Union for a while. During this time, why don't I help you refine the body of the hidden sea muse into a treasure?" The goddess of mercy was a person who was afraid of trouble. When the Freedom Federation's majesty asked the goddess of mercy to help refine a treasure, she would rarely agree, even if the price was high. The goddess of mercy said all this to gain Lin Yuan's favor. But the goddess of mercy did not notice. Because of the bloodline, the goddess of mercy's words to Lin Yuan were unusually gentle. This gentle feeling was like the whispering of a secret admirer to an admirer. Lin Yuan's face immediately revealed a surprised expression. He did not understand why the goddess of mercy would say such a thing to him. Why would the goddess of mercy refine a treasure for him out of nowhere? The goddess of mercy was waiting for Lin Yuan's response, but before she could, she heard the Moon Empress snort. This Empress is a Class 6 creation master. This Empress disciple's sacred source lifeform will definitely be personally forged by this Empress 7017K. Chapter 1805. Upon hearing the Moon Empress tone, Zishi, who was in Lin Yuan's arms, involuntarily shrank back. Because Zishi could feel the anger in the Moon Empress' heart that could not be suppressed any longer. Are Pinnacle Class 5 creation masters very impressive? Even more awesome than a Class 6 creation master like me? I can purify the eternal heart, but can you? You're speaking as if no one else knows how to refine artifacts other than you. You want to refine a treasure for my disciple? You're not worthy. In fact, the reason why the Moon Empress was so angry wasn't just because of what Lian deity had said. Instead, the pity goddess had publicly tried to rope Lin Yuan in. However, Lin Yuan was his caregiver. The Moon Empress was able to get along well with the compassionate goddess now because she had taken the initiative to seek cooperation, allowing her to become the Republic of Radiance's ally. However, it didn't mean that the Moon Empress' dissatisfaction with Goddess Lian had subsided. To put it simply, Goddess Lian's behavior right now was a show of concern for the younger generation. It was a gesture of goodwill towards Hui Yarrow. In other words, this was openly snatching disciples. Your loved one has just died, and you want to use the sacred source lifeform of your loved one to refine into a treasure to give to the person who killed your loved one? How vicious. What a heartless heart. The Moon Empress had always known that the pity goddess was selfish and heartless. However, he did not expect the goddess of mercy to be so heartless. This also allowed the Moon Empress to understand why the goddess of mercy of the Freedom Federation would sacrifice the interests of the Freedom Federation to fulfill her own selfish desires. The Moon Empress was gnashing her teeth in anger at the Lian deity, But she didn't know that the Lian deity would get even angrier after hearing her words. So what if he was a Class 6 creation master? As long as my strength can improve further, I will soon become a Class 6 creation master. Even if his strength didn't increase, it wasn't impossible for him to become a Class 6 creation master within a few years. A Class 6 creation master's rigid requirement for the soul spirit was to ascend the path to heaven. Goddess Lian, who had awakened her birth providence, had reached the required level of soul power. Do you think it's easy to think of a way to express goodwill to Lin Yuan? I thought for a long time before I came up with this idea. In Lian Shen's opinion, the Moon Empress had ruined her chance to express her goodwill to Lin Yuan. At the same time, she recalled Lin Yuan's gaze toward the Moon Empress. It was respectful, gentle, and filled with trust and admiration. The jealousy in Lian Shen's heart immediately surged. Jealousy filled the goddess of Mercy's mind, and she almost resonated with the archdevil that she had contracted with. If the pitiful goddess were to fuse with the great devil in the radiant moon palace, it would be the same as initiating a war with the Moon Empress. At that time, Lin Yuan would have a bad impression of him. Then why would I cooperate with Hui Yarrow? Goddess Lian knew very well that once hatred was born, it would be difficult to feel love again. No matter what, the pitiful goddess could not contradict the Moon Empress in front of Lin Yuan. This caused Lian Shen to be so angry that her eyes were red, but she behaved like a little wife and lowered her head in front of the evil mother-in-law, the Moon Empress. The goddess of Mercy's fists were clenched tightly together by now. Lian Shen, who had never done anything with a goal, suddenly had a goal in her heart. This goal was to make Lin Yuan trust her more than the Moon Empress within 5 years. At that time, in front of Lin Yuan, even if he and the Moon Empress quarreled or even fought, Lin Yuan would only help him. Lian Shen, who had set this goal, did not realize that she had changed her initial plan for Lin Yuan. Although Lin Yuan's mermaid royal bloodline made it difficult for Goddess Lian herself to make a move on him, Lin Yuan's bloodline was different. But the Mercy God had ways to kill Lin Yuan. Originally, the Mercy God thought that once she obtained Lin Yuan's love, her strength would improve further. In that case, Lin Yuan would no longer be someone that he needed to curry favor with. On the contrary, Lin Yuan's mermaid royal bloodline was an excellent tonic for her. It would allow her mermaid bloodline to be perfected and obtain more possibilities. After Qian Yu's death, the Mercy God could easily say that she would take Qian Yu's sacred source life form to forge artifacts for Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan was also the person who killed Qian Yu. This was enough to show how cold-blooded the Mercy God was. The Mercy God did not like to be threatened by anything. While Lin Yuan could become the Mercy God, he himself was a threat to the Mercy God. The pitiful Mercy God had neglected the influence of her bloodline on her heart. At that moment, Lin Yuan was like soft honey. While the Mercy God coveted him, she wanted to protect him from the bottom of her heart. The Mercy God had not been facing Lin Yuan for long. She had already been affected by the bloodline, subtly weakening the killing intent in her heart. Instead, she hoped that she could show off after obtaining Lin Yuan's love. The Mercy God was still forcibly suppressing the bloodline energy in her body, maintaining a calm expression. However, she had forgotten that Lin Yuan, who possessed the mermaid royal bloodline, could clearly feel the condition of his bloodline. The mermaid race valued bloodline even more than the fairy race, which was a source-type life form. High-grade mermaids could, to a certain extent, decide the life and death of low-grade mermaids through their bloodline. As for the fairy with a high-grade bloodline, it was more of a deterrent to the fairy with a low-grade bloodline. There was an essential difference between the two. The mermaid royal bloodline was an extremely unfamiliar territory to the Mercy God. The Mercy God did not know the ability of the mermaid royal bloodline. At that moment, Lin Yuan could clearly feel the flow of the bloodline power in the Mercy God's body. At that moment, the Mercy God was using her own power to suppress the mermaid royal bloodline. She gathered all the mermaid royal bloodline into her heart. The atrium and ventricles of the heart were confined. Under normal circumstances, the Mercy God did not have to do this. When the Mercy God first came in, she was facing her master, the Moon Empress. Lin Yuan did not find that the Mercy God was suppressing her bloodline. The Mercy God had such a behavior after he appeared. Thinking of the mercy god's goodwill to him, Lin Yuan suddenly understood many things that he had been puzzled about before. Lin Yuan was of the mermaid royal bloodline. However, he knew very little about the mermaid race. The Azure Federation should have the most information about the mermaid race. It just so happened that Yin Lin was still in the Radiance Federation and would leave in a week. Lin Yuan planned to learn about the mermaid race within this week. Through Yin Lin, he would learn about the mermaid race. Yin Lin would certainly not carry this information with her. All the information about the Azure Federation was not confidential to Yin Lin, and she could investigate it. However, she would never easily disclose it to other people in the Federation. When Yin Lin returned to the Azure Federation, she checked the relevant information. When the Celestial Parliament opened next time, Yin Lin could tell him the relevant information about the mermaid race through the Celestial Parliament. Lin Yuan could now be sure that the mercy god was so flattering to him. It was because of the bloodline. He did not know what the mercy god wanted from him. If she had no desires, there was no need for the mercy god to deliberately show goodwill to him face to face. 7017K